symbolic day in a lot of ways because the first tweet from Fiscus DAO was on November the 1st. So we are exactly 1 month in the duration of all things Fiscus DAO, on chain at least. For those that weren't here on the last AMA, this is something that the core team has been working on for well over 8 months. It is the culmination of my life's work. It's the culmination of several of the team's life's work when it comes to all things project finance, crypto, and everything that we will get into. And when I say get into, the things that we will accomplish with all of your help and support and governance. So again, 30 days in, Discord's been up for since November the 13th. So 17 days, over 6,000 here in the Fiscus DAO community, 6,000 on Twitter as well, and growing every day. And that is in no small part from the contribution, support, interaction, Q&As that you guys have separately. It's from all of that. And so, this is a thank you to everyone. This is a thank you to the Cryptonaires community. This is a thank you to our wonderful mods. This is a thank you truly to everyone. And with that being said, when we think about where we're headed, I know that we're still right now at the phase of NFTs. And for an update on that, we have Dome will give us just kind of a brief update on that. And then after that, we'll get into what Fiscus Projects is.
Hey, community. Just introduce myself if you guys don't have not interacted with me. I'm Donny Pham. I'm right now part of the team that's dealing with the NFTs. Certainly, I'd like to finish this up and get back to the cohesiveness of the team that we've had before. But the focus for me and my team is wrapping up the NFTs. We are close to doing that. Many of you have, DM'd me the issues that you guys are going through, and certainly we've tried to address those one by one. My team's also doing the verifications of the payments and getting all the tokens, those minted NFTs, associated with the token airdrop. There are a few issues that have come up that you guys are aware of. Certainly buying and selling on the secondary or making offers through OpenSea. We are dealing with those one by one. We understand that there are, issues regarding the buying and selling on the secondary market. And I assure you that we are getting to the bottom of that. Through our, analysis, we do believe that in the whole, as far as the relative sense, it's a small part of maybe the slippage that we're going to experience in this. We understand that there are going to be issues with people who do not pay and have sold their NFTs. We are in the process of matching up buyers with those transactions. And if we do find that someone has done that and their intentions are bad, then we will likely blacklist those people who have done that. But all in all, most people have come. The people that we've dealt with, especially in the last day or so, have just not known what the process was, and we certainly apologize for that. But we are dealing with it. We want to wrap this up as soon as possible. We are not impeding the progress of what I would call the rest of the team, in that you'll see as far as the announcements go. So we are steadily wrapping that up. There are allocations of the NFTs that we are working on. We're trying to get a final number, verify payments, and deal with collections. Those of you who have DM'd me, and we're working together, and you guys are keeping me updated, keeping our team updated with these things, these issues that you guys are experiencing. Of course, we're going to work with you. We're trying to build this community, and we're going to treat it as a community. And so, there will be some hard deadlines coming up in the next couple days. But all in all, if you guys have contacted us, and we are dealing with your individual situation, ongoing, then we will continue to do that. So really, that's the update I have on the NFTs. We are getting close to wrapping that up, and we look forward to moving on to phase 2.
Awesome. So with that being said, let's get into Fiscus projects, right? What's the point of the NFTs? What's the use of the NFTs, right? A lot of projects, it really is just for token allocation. It's just a placeholder. We knew that long term we wanted it to be something else. We knew that there would be a utility. At the very beginning, we wanted also for it to be kind of very free market, and we didn't want to almost put out too much information because we have so much to give. And so we thought it was best to really do it in phases. And so Fiscus Projects is the utility of the NFTs. What it does. There's 3 different levels of NFT. Everyone knows that. Those 3 levels obviously had a varying cost associated with them. What they actually do, though, for projects is this. Any project that is brought to Fiscus to be able to receive funding via the financial structures that we have in place, that we've created, which is the core of Fiscus DAO. Those projects have to be sponsored by an NFT holder. They also, those projects, have the opportunity to buy those NFTs. And so what we've done is we've created a secondary market for these NFTs. And I know that there's a lot going on there because, again, we're still dealing with the issues of the initial issuance. But these NFTs have that level of power. On top of that, NFT holders separate from FISC the token, right? Fiscus Projects is totally separate from the actual FISC token, okay? Everyone that holds these NFTs also qualifies for yields from the projects that Fiscus has negotiated revenue from. All that will be identified in the Fiscus Projects white paper. So you'll be able to see and be able to know, okay, listen, when a new project comes in, yes, they have to be sponsored by an NFT holder. There's the benefits there. I honestly, we could get into from here to whenever, because there's a lot there, as far as what that price looks like, what the rates would look like, the benefits of joint venturing with opportunity to be able to buy one in the open market. But the benefits that you have as a holder is bringing a project that you also have. And if it qualifies, it has to still be a great project, right? It can't be a dog, right? But if it qualifies, then you would then go through the process like a regular project owner or developer. So we're very excited about that. Very excited about that. There's a lot of usage. We've really just begun on that, and that's the utility aspect. With that being said, I think probably one of the biggest announcement everybody's waiting on now is Doxxed team members, right? Who are some of these people that are behind this thought? Who are some of these people that are actually doing these day-to-day things? First one, and let me preface that by saying this. All of these team members are going to be on the website tomorrow as well. They all have real emails where you can reach out to them. There's a phone that's being established, and I know that's a lot when we talk about a huge community and inundation and all of these things. But there's a reason we wanted to set a lot of things up in the background as we grew to be able to handle this. Okay. But even with that being said, you'll be able to contact these people. Each of them is also going to do videos that will be available so that you can see them, so you know they're real. All of them also going through the rug doc so that you know that there's that verified there as well. Short of them talking to you across a Zoom or a FaceTime with them holding their ID, you will know for sure that these people are who they are. And they all also have backgrounds that are phenomenal. They are specialists in their fields. And so that first one, I think, is again, these aren't ranked in order of importance at all. But the first one, Princess Veray, formerly of Merrill Lynch, very, very, very well educated. She is, and I think the best way to really describe her. Her project finance network has completed tens of billions of dollars in funding yearly. Her firm, which is Wayweya, and you'll see all of this will be available to every single person. That firm serves as that pivotal link between additional project finance larger firms, because again, tens of billions of dollars is not where we're trying to go. We're going much larger than that. We want everyone to be aware of that. But they're that link between project finance and also projects and project owners. Two of the projects, actually, of our first three that we'll get into, stem from that network. And so she is that middle piece for those that have projects. Everything will go through her initially. Now, at the same time, because again, we're going for full-fledged DAO governance, additional roles are going to be developed for those that actually here in the community to be able to work with her, to be able to work with her team. A lot to unpack there. But again, first one, Princess Veray. That's Viray. Second one, has been in energy projects. And again, we're talking about renewable. Holds, I don't know, I think at last count, maybe 50 or 60 patents in the United States for various things, all energy related, definitely some tech related things. That's Moradi, Moradi, Dr. Bijan Moradi. Not to be confused with some of the physicians that you might see on a Google search. One of our very first projects actually stems from his network. Waste to Energy project, over $13 billion is total project size. We're going to take it in pieces. We don't view that the Treasury necessarily is going to have, let's say, $3 billion in it day one. Scale up while still being able to have a phenomenal ROI. Okay. Another one, Brady McKay. That's MCCAA. Engineer by trade, solar aficionado. We are very big on solar. Okay. And so the benefit that he brings is not only in operations of the DAO itself, right? That's really his critical role, but also in that expertise, which I know even other members that have approached us, members in skill set, members that have been circling, Fiscus DAO for a while now, that also have, but he has that from the internal team perspective. He has that expertise. And that's very vital because out of the first 27 projects, and that's how far we are now. And again, all of these LOIs will be provided. All of the term sheets will be provided. Everything's coming. Okay. Those elements, you'll be able to see how many of those really are renewable energy based. That's a focus that we have. And the reason for that, if I could just dive into that just for a second, and you guys know I like to talk. So definitely Donnie, you may have to limit me on this. But from that perspective, we know that renewable energy is such a focus right now. It's a hot button issue, of course, and all that. But at the same time, there are so many technologies that could be phenomenal. The one thing that they've lacked is the right financing. The one thing that they've lacked is the right financing partner. That is where Fiscus is able to come in. Yes, we love commercial real estate. We love business equities. We love gold and silver and kind of more traditional plays. But we're built though. We're built for speed. Okay. And we're built for speed in the sense that we are here to be able to fund some of the projects that oftentimes can't be funded another way. We're their opportunity. And that's a core tenet of Fiscus DAO. That's something that obviously we haven't talked about much of because we're still in the initial phases. We're still in getting this token launched. But that's important. That's important to us. We know that that's important to you. You know, we've had hundreds of DMs about projects, about renewable energy projects, and when we say we agree, we mean that. We're not just saying that because yes, it makes money. We're going to do a lot of things that make money, but it's about what is the impact that we can actually leave. What's the difference that we can make? This is our opportunity to make that difference. Lastly, we have Don Alley, creative director, coming on full time. Was in kind of a part-time role, kind of a transitory role, but coming on full time, working with a team that's designing the UI, working with the team that really is making sure that everything that we're doing forward is really aesthetically pleasing. We would love for him to have come on maybe 7 days ago, you know, closer to the Discord launch, but life is life. And so therefore now is the time. And so we're thrilled for him to be able to come on as well. And so those are our first 4. And there's an additional 3, but I'm not going to put their names out there yet because they're just not quite ready. They're transitioning out of other positions and they know the scope of Fiscus and where we're headed. But those are the first 4. So those will be on the website. Those will be in an announcement. You'll be able to access them. You'll be able to verify them. All of those good things that everybody wants. So let's dive straight into the first 3 projects. I just want to hit them on a high level. You know, we'll be able to deep dive. We'll have a specific channel for each project, and if you have thoughts, you can contribute that to the channel. Now, these are projects that are the first 3. You know, I mean, they've been vetted from the sense of, you know, environmental impact, all of those things. You know, they're past that. And again, remember, these are not projects that FISC will own, even though we are, spoiler alert, negotiating revenue on one, which is the nodes and mining project. But these are projects that will be owned by outside groups that we are providing the set aside for. And we've structured them, and they're really great deals for Fiscus because we'll be able to start wherever we're at. Now, we have plans for the treasury, especially before launch, that are really going to put us at a high valuation. You know, that's a question that I'm sure we'll be asked here at the end about valuation and our thoughts on the liquidity bootstrap pool and 250 and what that values us at. We have 100% thoughts on that. That's the funnest thing to me, right? Those are the things that I enjoy. But getting into the projects, the first one is waste energy. It will be located in the United States. It will be located in the state of Alabama. The project actually has a range of in between 13 and 21 billion in total project costs. We're going to take it in pieces. So it may be that we are putting up 5 million for the first element of it. And then we're going to come back and be able to put up 50 million for a set aside. Every time that we do that, again, core Fiscus is no risk to treasury capital, right? No risk to that. So again, this is putting that up via smart contract, not converting that back into fiat, just to kind of answer that question. This is, if we were doing that, right? And just to kind of put this thought out there, if we were just utilizing our treasury and utilizing the crypto that's there and converting that into fiat and then coming back into crypto, that's great. But it doesn't spur the adoption and the growth of crypto that we really want. And so what we've done, again, and this is what we talked about on that first AMA, is that we've brought those legacy financial structures on chain. Okay, we're making them play by our rules to a degree, and that is Fiscus DAO. So again, we'll take good chunks out of this project. Overall, we expect our ROI to be 1.6 billion from this project. Now, again, that is not going to be all up front. That is not going to be on the first time. That could take us anywhere from 4 to 6 months. But that's what we have that will hit the treasury. That is a number. That number has already been negotiated and agreed upon. And so that is the number. It will not be any less than that. Secondly, for the second project, we have a $125 million node mining project. Now, this one is actually going to be done inside of a special purpose vehicle. And then Princess Verace team is taking care of this, and they're involved with even ownership of that. Full disclosure, we want that to be out there so everyone knows. But for Fiscus, we're looking at coming in when we're able with $10 million from the treasury, and we'll be paid back right around 17.5 for doing that. Again, phenomenal profit from an ROI perspective.
Well, it looks like Fiscus DAO went quiet as he gets his technical difficulties taken care of. We'll wait for him as we can. I know that that this happens from time to time, but just kind of going forward on the projects. We're very excited about these, and these projects have been in the works for a while, and we have been preparing ourselves for these projects to go in to be related to the DAO. So, some of the behind the scenes things that we've done, to get these projects to what I call the finish line, has taken a lot of work. So just don't think that these things kind of fall out of the air. They don't. Unfortunately, they take a lot of work to negotiate, to set up, and to really massage into a project that we think is viable. I'm really excited. He hasn't announced the third project, but I'm really excited about it because I've seen the specs on it, and it's quite exciting. So hopefully he will get back and explain that. I won't steal his thunder on that, but as kind of a focus, we are focused a lot on renewable energy, solar projects, those types of projects, and so and don't be intimidated by the big numbers because a lot of these projects are out there. And they have been. I mean, we both have background. My background's in commercial real estate, and when you get into that kind of realm, you can't be afraid of any zeros. So certainly these sound large projects, and they are. But we have the experience to get these to the finish line. So that's why we're really excited about. This prospects of bringing this to a different kind of setup. We recognize that this is the new way of doing things, and we wanted to be on the forefront of that. So going through and creating the smart contracts. We talked to auditors today. We had narrowed it down to 2. but then had some concerns about one of them, and so with their work and I won't say their names, but they certainly misidentified some security issues in a couple own forks. So we that was kind of the deciding factor in deciding what to go as far as or the way we're going to go with it with a smart contract auditor. So development is certainly key for us, and we know we can do that quickly, and we're really focused on getting that that going. So, but all these moving pieces that that are kind of coming together are really coming together. That's why I think from a timeline standpoint, we're really focused on. I've been really telling people, the launch is going to be Q1 2022. Certainly, that I'm being probably conservative in that regard. I know Fiscus, their timeline is wants to accelerate that. So we understand that you've put capital with us, and I say us as the community, and it's our job to steward that capital in the right way, and bring these projects the way they should. So it looks like maybe Cal is getting back on. Hopefully he can. Let's see. There he goes. Maybe he just had to.
I'm here.
There you go.
And I've literally been talking, I think, for 7 minutes, and no one's heard a thing.
No one's heard a thing. I'm going to go mute. I'll leave it back up to you.
Okay. Well, before you do, let me know what's the last thing that everyone heard.
You were really going to the tail end of the second project. I think you were about to announce the third.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. No problem whatsoever. Okay. Yeah, I was already into the whitelist. Wow, that's great. All right, so getting back to that, and apologize for everyone. Definitely value your time. So on that second project, not sure I left off there. Nodes and mining, we are negotiating some revenue on that. Great project. 17.5 will come back. 10 will be allocated. 17.5 coming back, giving us an ROI of 7.5. About that. The project is a hotel resort in the state of Nevada, and those that know Nevada knows what that means in the United States. 1.45 billion is the total project size. Again, we'll take this project in pieces. It's not that we're having to bring 10% of that initially from the treasury. We'll take it in stride. The beautiful thing about this project, and again, this is us showing the world, showing those that have DM that are in commercial real estate. We understand that commercial real estate is phenomenal. When we look at wealth worldwide, commercial real estate makes up a huge portion of that, and so we want that to be represented in Fiscus DAO as well. And so on that, this has some great elements that I think everyone will really like. There's VR is throughout this hotel resort. Augmented reality is a crucial piece. It really is what I feel is kind of the first that's really burgeoning on metaverse thoughts and metaverse ideas inside of a hotel resort. Great thing about it is that the principles behind it are very strong. The architect is a household name if you're in commercial real estate. It's in a phenomenal location that everyone knows. 2 of our team members are actually going out to Nevada next week to just kind of finalize things, and those LOIs and term sheets will be available for inspection by all members next week. And again, like I was mentioning earlier, I'm not sure if you heard that, but when we talk about these projects, again, these are 3 that we are starting with. But at the same time, we want everyone to see the process of governing the acceptance of a project. Therefore, even though they're already the projects we're going to start with, and the revenue's already the revenue for the treasury is locked in. We still want everyone to be able to talk about these projects. And so we'll set up separate channels so that you can get in there and ask questions about them and talk about them. We'll invite principals of the projects onto the Discord, and they'll be there being able to answer questions that you may have. And so this is growth for the community in a vastly different way than anyone has ever done this. Everyone knows that we're a DAO, but we are far, far, far from a typical regular on-chain DAO. We are that blend. We are that mixture of off-chain and on-chain. So let's get to the whitelist, right? I think that's what most are here, most are excited about. We're going to do the whitelist in 2 rounds. First round, 1,500 slots. Those slots are going to be for the following categories. That's 1,500 total. They're going to be for boosters, mods, Kryptonaire Super Bowls, airdrop winners, NFT buyers, those that have bought from Fiscus, as well as OGs. Separately, 500 slots for the lottery. Now, the lottery is for everyone that's new that may not qualify for those categories. Those that have just been here, maybe not 2 or 3 days, 5 or 6 days. You'll have an opportunity in the lottery to still get a token allocation, to still be able to participate. Now let's talk about how the token breakdown. 3.5 million tokens altogether. 500,000 set aside for that lottery, meaning 3 million tokens for the 1,500 slots. Minimum token, 1. We know that we have members in the most amazing, beautiful places around the world that also are some of the most humble and meager areas, okay? And so we wanted it to always be 1 so that they have the opportunity to be able to participate. The max token, 2,000. Now, there will be a second round, and that second round will be kind of further described. There's a couple elements of that are a little bit TBD because we want it to be fair, right? We are capitalists, right? We are social capitalists, I guess you could kind of say. But in that realm, we know that there's always a place for those with an abundance of capital. And so we span the gamut by being from 1 to 2,000, and there being a second round for those that may have more means to be able to even buy an additional amount of tokens. That's there, and that's going to be available. So any and all questions related to that, most of them will be wrapped up in the whitelist announcement, the specifics of that. From a capital efficiency perspective, the whitelist will accept AVAX and MIM. We want there to be a good stable. We know that AVAX is obviously our home, and so it's time to make that shift there. It's time to make that adjustment there. We've loved Poly. Poly has served us well. I think Poly has given us a great opportunity with the NFT sale for some very, very low gas fees. When someone's buying an NFT for $50 and the gas fee is cents or even less, I mean it's just phenomenal. And so we've loved the impact of that, and we know that everyone's benefited from that. But we need to get to AVAX, everyone, because that's where our home is. We see the growth there. That's where we want to park resources at the end of the day. Our goal is to grow AVAX. Outside of that, there's some Q&A that has been prepared from the community. And I'm going to bring up, here we go. I'm going to bring up CFiscus here. There's some Q&A that's been prepared. So we'll go over those first, because those are some of the questions from those that couldn't be on because of the time. But they're great questions. They're questions that have been asked, over and over again to the mods. We have phenomenal mods. And again, there's a whole, I don't want to call it a hierarchy, because I feel like we're a little bit more open than that. But there's a role. There's the roles that are going to be assigned. There's new roles, and these are going to go with that chess thing. I think everyone's going to love this. This is over the next few days as well. And so based on that, there'll be opportunities for increased channels as far as engagement goes. So that if there's a specific topic that you're looking for answers to, you'll be able to know exactly where to go. Right now, the mods have been playing catch up. When it comes to answering questions all over the place, whether it's in general chat, whether it's in Ask Fiscus Anything, whether it's in tokenomics. So we want there to be definitely more organization to that. That's what we're excited about. That's what, these individuals, these Doxxed team members also will be helping with. Definitely that moving forward. But with that being said, I want to get into some of these questions that Fiscus has that we'll answer. And then after that, we'll open it up. And so anybody that has any question, you guys know how we do this. Transparency rules and reigns. Anybody will be able to ask anything after that. So let's start with that first one there, Fiscus.
How's it going, Fiscalites? This is Fiscus bringing you the questions from our wonderful mods. Kick it off here with, will the token reward for staking be paid in FISC or other tokens?
So token reward for staking will be paid in FISC. When the max supply is reached, right, 100 million tokens, the DAO will have the option at that point. And I know everyone says like, well, of course we want to continue to get nice yield, right? And so at that point, it could be some of the assets that are in the treasury, some stables, or additionally, the DAO could choose to end rebases at that point, to end yields at that point, and therefore we would just have price appreciation of the token. The overall theme, and I'm probably going a little deep on this first question, but the overall theme, remember, is price appreciation. That's why there's only 100 million. That's why it's not open. We're not looking to be an ohm. We're not looking to be time. From the tokenomics perspective, we want that growth, because what happens is that growth and the growth of the treasury. Remember, we're in the fiat world when it comes to projects, but we're bringing that. I like to think of it as siphoning that or harvesting. Those that may be into like the movie Dune, we're spice harvesters in a good way, right? We're harvesting those assets and bringing them on chain. And so based on that, we need that price appreciation is a good thing. Is a good thing for the token. It's a good thing for what we then turn around and do off chain. So I'll cut myself off there on that question. What do you have for the next one?
Are there any plans to lock the tokens for the NFT holders in whitelist for a period of time?
No. And I know this is contrary to probably every other token. It seems like, a large majority. And the reason why is this. We have, separately from what's going on chain, we have what we call forced buys. And we say that even to those off chain, even though maybe in a little bit nicer of a way. But a forced buy is where we are making the project developers hold FISC. We are making them buy FISC. Now, they have not participated in the NFT. They will not participate in the whitelist. They will not participate in the LBP. They are there at launch to be able to buy what they need, that negotiable level that we will also know. That's the benefit of everything we do. You'll know that. You'll know that before launch, where they're going to come in at and how much that they have to buy from a dollar perspective. And the reason it's from that fiat perspective is because, of course, we can't mandate them to buy, 1,000 FISC or 2,000 FISC or 10,000 FISC, because obviously that price is going to be preferably that price is going to be accelerating pretty quickly. But from a dollar perspective, and that's on every deal. Now, how does that impact us long term? Well, we're making them bond it. So it's not that we're worried about some holder of FISC at some point having too much control over the token, let's say, because they could be a super whale class. We're not worried about that, because by making them bond it, we're exchanging, right? We're receiving more. We're raising the floor of the treasury. That's great for all of you that are holding the token, all of you that are receiving those rebases. So that's the short answer of that question. Let's go for the next one.
Great, thanks. So the team mentioned during their last AMA that the launch price is expected to be much higher than the liquidity bootstrapping pool. Would this imply that you're expecting the LBP to result in a closing price of this value, or is the launch price something that is set by Fiscus after the LBP?
It's not that it's set at all. We look at it as in this perspective, and Donnie, feel free to weigh in on this too. We look at it from the perspective of the one thing that we're able to control. If we want to look at what can we control, we can tokens are put in the LBP. Right? Let's be honest there. We know that we're locking up everything from the whitelist 100%, everything from the LBP 100%. And so we know that that's great for the price. But what we also know is we can bring up the floor. That's where we're vastly different than any other protocol, is that we are able to really bring up the floor price because of what we're putting in the treasury. So it's because of that, and knowing the projects, and having this pipeline of projects and these buyers that have to buy FISC, have to bond into it, therefore it hits the treasury. It's those mechanisms that allow us to be aggressive when it comes to our thoughts on the launch price. And again, at the end of the day, we don't know, right? It's like, again, we don't know, but we know that it's going to be better than the whitelist price, and it's going to be better than the NFT price, and it's going to be better than the LBP price. And again, that's because of where we're at on that. But and I'll let Donnie weigh in even on valuation.
Yeah, and just on that point, behind the scenes, we will know per project or be able to forecast what the valuation is to us, to the DAO. So, we will know that floor, and we'll communicate that. In a typical corporate world, you don't disclose that information to your investors. You let the market determine what those numbers are. But I think it's important that the community know, okay, what is really the floor of my token? I've got it at a cost basis of X, and it's worth this. But the price that it may be trading at will be different. So you'll know if okay, maybe it's an opportunity for me to buy more because I see these values going up based on the project. So I think that benefits the what I would call the early adopters, and so that you'll know, okay, you know what, this is going to shoot up. I believe in it, and so it really serves to keep tokens in the community, and that's our goal. I mean, obviously everyone has their own future agenda and when they may want to get out and hit a beach somewhere, but we understand that, but we're trying to make this make these values extraordinary, and so having that information on, okay, this project brings this amount of value to the DAO, I think is important information. So and we certainly have some expertise in that, and as we build our team, that's something that, at least from my perspective, I'm focused on. So
wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead with the next one there, see if it's good.
Okay. So there's a little bit of confusion regarding the locking. What does locking the tokens look like? Is that locking the liquidity from the sale and not the tokens?
Yes. Yeah, and just to clarify that, and great question there. Yeah, we're talking about locking the proceeds from the sale. Everybody's familiar with what's happened with unscrupulous individuals and various DAOs that are here on Monday, what we call the Monday to Friday DAOs, that are here on Monday and gone on Friday. We want everyone to know, because again, we're talking about from the whitelist, $52-53 million. From the LVP, much more than that. So we just want everyone to know that those elements will be put in place. That these doxed individuals are on the multi-sig, and an associate of mine actually reached out, and we're waiting. So those that might have influence with David Moss is strong. We'd love for him to be on the multi-sig. There's some thoughts there, or even another known individual. We're open to that. If somebody has somebody phenomenal that everybody in the crypto ecosystem respects, we'd love for them to be a part, so that there is that and everyone knows that moving forward. But as far as the FISC tokens themselves, no. You will have your tokens at launch. Those that have a $5 cost basis, you have a $5 cost basis. And those that have a 15, you have a 15. And so wherever the token's at, it's your opportunity at that point. Fully. It's your opportunity at that point. To that point, I would just say, remember that there is a limited amount of FISC. That's all I would say. That's the only way I think I can put that out there. But we are here for the apes. We're here for the hodlers. What do we have next?
Awesome. Do you guys have an estimate on the public release price of the FISC token, or will that be market determined?
I definitely market determined. Again, the element in that we can control is the floor of the treasury. And so it's our objective to get that up as high as possible, right? We want to see, and again, I'm saying this, and I probably shouldn't, because I think I'm probably going to get quoted on it at some point or tweeted about it at some point. But we would love to see $1,000 FISC at launch. I mean, let's just be honest, right? There's when you look at the APY, when you look at the upside, when you look at the projects that will already be not only announced but already locked in, that are going through their processes of funding, that we've basically been able to schedule out, because at that point, we'll have a firm schedule of going from one project to the next as far as the set asides go. You'll be able to see it. The market will be able to see it. Now, whether it's priced in initially, that's just the market, right? We don't know, because again, we're doing something that's vastly different. But that's where I would love for it to be, because I feel like that really encapsulates where we truly will be in those first 6 to 9 months, anyways. So that's kind of the short answer. The long answer is that yes, we're putting as many mechanics into play to make that a reality. We aren't just saying, well, let's just hope and pray. It's not a build it and they will come. It's okay. Let's go get them, and then let's start the building. And that also is what we've been doing for the last 8 months, outside of everything on chain. So we do have a semblance of knowing for sure where we're headed. It's just a question of how long it takes for us to get there. Is it a year? Is it 18 months? Is it 3 months? And when I say get there, I mean to the sense of where we're really a force, tens of Bs and assets in the treasury. That's something that, and we'll put out more on that. I think the tokenomics white page will get into that a little bit more. We have so many different elements that are not in a standard DAO, and it's at times I think it's difficult in relaying all of that, because we are off chain and we are on chain, and so there's a benefit there. But always keep this in mind, is that when we started, the thought was always, how do we benefit the on chain with the off chain, right? And I love this example. Years and years ago, 20 years ago, when I was in discussions about leverage, a phenomenal example was given of a shark or whale and that little fish that's right next to it, right? When you look at us from an on-chain perspective, and if you were to say a $25 billion valuation puts us on a top 10 level, right? That's accurate. That's true, right? And again, this is before some of our favorite protocols maybe do 3 and 5x over the next year, 2 years. But even outside of that, it would put us on a high level. But if you look at us from the perspective of asset management, of hedge fund, and I say that loosely. $25 billion is really a boutique shop, right? It's nothing, quite honestly, in comparison to some of the larger players and groups out there. And so you really have to look at us in that hybrid way. And I think because of that, again, we're going to break some molds. We're going to break some objectives and some thoughts that people have had, but just keep that in mind. That's the reason why. Our goal is to create hyper growth, but hyper growth that is based on that growth in the treasury. So it's not just extrinsic speculative value. Bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right? And that's how we view this. Let's benefit the treasury first, and then we know that will have an impact on the token itself. So let's go with the next question if you can there, Fiscus.
Great, thanks. Can you clarify which decentralized exchange the public launch is going to be on for the whitelist presale? And then furthermore, the lottery, we've been getting a lot of questions on what are the qualifications and how to get in. Sure.
It's still a little bit of TBD on that with the whitelist. We've gone all over the place. We really want to avoid AVA launch simply because of the US issue. We know that a bulk of a lot of our members are in the United States. That's something that's very important to us. So there's a couple workarounds that we're dealing with right now. We know it's from a DEX perspective. Obviously, we like Trader Joe's. If there was additional, we would even kind of contemplate maybe a dual approach. Something that's been talked about with the lottery. We're not looking at, it's not a paid ticket type lottery. A lot of elements will be random. Several of our members have suggested some phenomenal gamification, and so that's something that we feel is vital. Those that have limited means that still want to participate, that have some time to contribute, that time is important. We value that time. And so that lottery there'll be several elements of it that will fully be open. And so we want the most participation of those in that lottery as possible. Go ahead with the next one. Yeah.
So there's been some shaky launches recently. Can you tell me what Fiscus DAO is going to do differently to try to avoid that?
Say that very first part you cut out just for me.
There have been some shaky launches recently. Can you tell me what Fiscus DAO is going to do differently to try and avoid that?
Sure. Significant testing, and also we won't launch if we're not there. Again, we have the benefit of, by not being a typical DAO that is trying to utilize maybe some just sensational marketing and buzz that's there, and it might dwindle because there's another project that looks exactly like it. That's not us. And so because that's not us, we really have the benefit of time. Now, we balance that with the fact of, we know that because everyone has participated in the NFT sale and participating in the whitelist, you guys have ROIs internal to your personal lives, right? We've had members that are coming out of strong nodes. We have members that are coming out of OM, coming out of other things where they could have yields. And so that's important to us. And that's why we know that we wanted to have that LBP really structured in a way that price would be higher. And then, of course, doing everything we're doing to have that launch even higher. That's us doing the work so that when at launch, you're at a good multiple already. So it's not just a wait and see for you guys also. And so again, to answer that question on what's going to make us a little different, testing, taking our time, and really just doing it right. And when I say doing it right, from the perspective of not rushing, by having every element really pinned down. And again, that's why I say we like some of the options that are there. We're not the most impressed with them at the same time, because we have seen the failure of some others, or just the choppiness, you could say, of some others. And even on that note, there really has been a shift Obviously, consensus is phenomenal, but we want to go ahead and bring in Paladin as well. And this is announcing that for the first time too. Those that have followed, that may know or may not know, there's some issues with some of these forks of Ohm, from a security standpoint and from a safety standpoint and elements of that. Again, they're great protocols, great people, but those are the things that we want to avoid. And so we do that by taking our time and doing it right. And those that have the epitome of the expertise in that, we're looking at bringing in some outside, not just from the auditing perspective, but also from the perspective, okay, from an operational perspective, as far as our testing goes, we're doing what we would consider an operational audit is probably the best way to really sum that up, to where we know, okay, this is the most streamlined approach. For those in the corporate world, what would be familiar to a Lean Six Sigma or something like that. Just good QA. But I think that answers that. Yeah, go for the next one.
So we want to touch on some of the OpenSea stuff. Is there a Fiscus DAO OpenSea link that can be confirmed for legitimate NFTs, or will we have to continue to refer them to Doni for validation?
There is, and there was a lot of issues with OpenSea, honestly, and part of the issues were based on those initial curated collections. Excuse me, and some went phenomenally well. Some of the more experienced crypto individuals had no issue with that, but for some we had random kind of gas issues, where their NFTs were kind of stuck in this odd limbo. We weren't really getting a lot of the support that we needed. We felt like, from OpenSea, and so that's when we really started doing direct. And really to get away from that and to still be able to mint efficiently and quickly. So yes, there is. They've been minted out of what amounts to 3 specific collections, and so they have contracts. If someone were to really look, they would be able to see that. And so what we will do is make sure that all of that information is available. Also, with that being said, there'll be 2 additional team members whose sole role is to help additionally with Doni's team. And so you'll have 3 different places where you can drop a DM based on the issue for that to be wrapped up quickly.
Awesome. Thanks. So we've been hearing about the NFT auction between the whitelist sale and the LBP event. Will those NFTs have a token allocation associated with them like the initial NFT sale?
Yes. So, and again, the NFT sale really will be before the whitelist, because we don't want to convolute and have the whitelist at a higher token allocation price, and then have the NFT sale there at a lower. I mean, we get into thoughts of fairness and engagement at that point. So we want to wrap up all things NFT. So once Doni's team is fully wrapped up, and again, just like he spoke about, there's going to be a hard date that's coming up, and after that point, the remaining will be auctioned. And the thought is, I was having in a discussion earlier with Coffee Block. That thought is that the goal has always been to get to that 1.2 million token mark, and so the auction allows us to get up to that level, and that's the point of it. And again, once that is done, it's officially done. So right now we're kind of in a hybrid phase, let's be honest, of phase 1 and phase 2, but we know that we're fluid. So we have the ability to be able to more or less do both. And so that's where we're at with it.
Awesome. Do you guys have any details on the auction, how it's going to take place?
They to be announced. It'll firmly be fair, more than likely, because it will be a limited number, and some of the issues that we did have, even with OpenSea, and we're really looking at a complete poly setup for it. They will be able to be auctioned off fairly. Again, it's going to be with a token allocation. So some of those that might know now that they don't want to take their chances, I guess you could say, in the lottery. The NFT auction is an opportunity for them to be able to get a great token allocation price, and depending on where the auction ends up. So free and fair auction would be my answer to that.
Awesome. So one follow up on that. You mentioned fair. Is that in reference to protections from whales?
More so in protections to the market as a whole. From a whale protection standpoint, we view, again, we are capitalists, and we don't want to exclude anyone whatsoever. And we feel that having the lottery and having so many slots in that lottery, that's how we're really able to kind of cater to that. On the NFT auction, it's time to move on, just quite honestly. And so though there will be some mechanism to kind of protect, just kind of whale dominance there. But at the same time, we don't have oceans without whales, just being honest.
Makes sense.
What
So
else
do we have a definite date of when the token airdrop is going to take place, or will that maintain fluidity with release?
It will, because it's 100% based upon release. We are looking at now for the whitelist, and so this is one of those semi big announcements. We are looking at that first round from the 10th through the 12th. That could flux by a day or two. That will be in the announcement. That will be out no later than tomorrow, announcing that for that first round. But one, we want to give everyone time. Those that are already kind of assured, those that are making plans, want to give them time to be able to get their capital in order, kind of have those hard decisions and decide on more or less where they're at. And so that's kind of where we're at with that.
Great. So do we know what kind of passive income is going to be provided from the NFTs? Is it going to be APY based, or is it going to be revenue based, or something not mentioned?
Revenue based. So there will be, and the easiest way to think about it is that, let's say you have a project, and let's take the nodes in mind. Let's say that the end result is that we negotiate a 15% revenue share in that project. So those that have, let's just say, strong nodes, and those that have done some mining, you can extrapolate that and say, okay, what would roughly $100 million into that yield, and then you would know what 15% of that from a revenue perspective would be. And most of everything that we will do initially, before fully turning it over to the DAO, we want it to be based on gross. And the reason is that it's simpler and there's less opportunity for any shenanigans from project developers. Let's just be honest, right? And so because of that, you would then take that amount, and then that amount would be divided amongst the NFT holders. And so I'm sure everyone will do numbers on that, and we'll have the actual pro formas. You'll have all those things will be made available. So you'll know with a higher degree of certainty what those numbers actually are, but they are based on the revenue. And if I could, I have one, I want to bring up Crypto Sensei real quick, just for one question, because I know there's a time constraint, and then I'll come right back to you, Fiscus.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Cal, thank you so much for bringing me up real quick. I just wanted to ask, I have a couple deaf members in our community, and they're asking if it's possible to get just a recap of what's kind of going on for them. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate everything you've done. You've been one of the best strategic partnerships that we've ever had here at Cryptonaires, and you're a gentleman, and working with Donnie and the whole team, you guys have just been amazing. And we're very thankful for you guys, and we look forward to growing with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we want, from an accessibility standpoint, absolutely. I know that, again, with our phenomenal mods, that there'll be some, I'm sure, some transcription, there'll be questions answered, all of that. And so moving forward, I think it may be such where, if there's a specific channel that may need to be developed, that's something that we absolutely will do. And that goes for anyone, even in the languages. I know that we have some various translators in the languages, but at the same time, I feel like maybe that might be lacking a little bit, and so that's something that we better at. So if anyone has suggestions on that, drop a DM and let us go to work making Fiscus DAO better for you as well.
Appreciate that, Cal. This whole AMA was just straight fire, and we really appreciate what you guys are doing. And this is going to be one of the biggest projects I think that I've ever seen in crypto year to date. So congratulations on your success, guys.
Awesome, thank you so much. And even speaking on that partnership with the Cryptonaires, they're amazing. For those that were able to take advantage of the Super Bowl, listen, that's something you need to keep. Hear it from me. Don't look at it as a way that you were just able to receive, some assured token allocation. When it comes to the Cryptonaires, there's no other group that we have seen or found that are as serious, as dedicated, as resourceful when it comes to research, when it comes to deep dives. They're amazing. And at the same time, they back winning projects. And maybe again, I'm a little partial, right, when it comes to Fiscus DAO on that, but that's their strategy, right? Is full fledged. It's not a shilling mechanism. It's not something just for quick APY. It's so much more than that. And so we definitely value all of our Cryptonaires members that are here in Fiscus DAO. And for those that are not Cryptonaires members, you should probably look at it. Whereas we are limited in our scope to all things Fiscus DAO, they have a broader view, and they'll have plenty of wins because of how they think and how they go about it. And so with that, let's go back to see Fiscus.
Great, thanks. And I just want to address the accessibility. If anybody has any suggestions, please feel free to submit them to us. We'll do everything we can to implement anything we can that makes sense. So on to the next question. Will returns dynamically adjust based on the volatility of revenues and weighted average of the monies vested?
Phenomenal question. Short answer is no. I mean, again, by basing it on gross, our thought is this: let's leave everything complex, semi off chain, right? And so from an on chain perspective, we want it to be very simple. So by basing things on gross revenue, it's there. Now, will that fluctuate based on the revenue of the project? Yes, of course. So there will be that fluctuation. But again, it's really a straight pass through. Now, there will be inside of that revenue, let's say that, again, utilizing the node and mining project, for instance, if it comes in at 15%, and I definitely think that it will, and everyone will know that and be able to see that, and you'll be able to see if I called it correctly or not. But by it coming in, let's say at 15%, obviously there's a little fluctuation there. There's fluctuation of the underlying, the underlying node yield, all of that. But even with that being said, Fiscus DAO will have a percentage of that will go to the treasury with everything else, and by everything else being 90, even 95%, that goes to the NFT holders directly. And it's directly as it's received. It's not a waiting period. It's not a vesting period on those yields either, because that's the benefit that we wanted to provide for the NFT class.
Great. Following up on that, will the NFT holders have a choice of which coin they can receive rewards in? Ethereum, DAI, Ohm, etc.
That's been that's been a thought. And Donnie may weigh in on this, or he may not too. But the thought has been that from the project developers, from the project owners, we really want them to be able to pay in two ways. It really is going to be either a stable or it's going to be in FISC, one of the two. Now, if they pay in FISC, obviously there's a benefit there. And that benefit is that, again, that's further pushing the price of FISC, right? And so it could be FISC or stable. not necessarily, and this is a slight change maybe to the thought from before, not necessarily ETH or OHM in that sense. Once OHM maybe stabilizes long term, then I would say OHM. And by saying all of this, subject to change because it's going to be based on the DAO. Again, there could be a vote that's put up that says, listen, we want it to be MIM and AVAX. We want it to be, whatever. We want it to be time and bananas. Whatever the DAO wants at that point is what could occur. That will be the option at that point.
You may have covered this when you were talking about the projects, but will Fiscus be using Strong to provide nodes, or do you have a connection/partnership with Strong? I know they were mentioned creating off-chain partnerships, and you guys have mentioned nodes quite a bit.
We absolutely do not at this point have a locked-in partnership with Strong. Fully and 100% willing. We think what they're doing with nodes is great, especially long term. We love where they're at with that, and so we're open to it. And even on this project, the 125 million project, we have some sway. Obviously because it's really kind of an arm of one of the team members. So there's some sway to say, you know what, let's do X amount really in Strong. Now, long term, that's something that we want the DAO to decide. Because again, long term, if there are certain projects that the DAO wants to take on, this is going to be the full ability of the DAO, where the DAO comes together and says, as the DAO, let's do X and invest that in X. And so at that point, then obviously that would be decided by the DAO. So short answer to that, I think I probably went a little long, but short answer to that is that nothing specific on that, but would love to put $50 million in Strong notes. Right? Let's be honest. Let's see where that goes and where that takes us. And with the phenomenal financing in play, one, it's already approved to be able to do that, which is, I think, the biggest hurdle, quite honestly, from that entity and covering debt, which is, again, we're talking about off-chain elements now. We're not talking about things that have a risk to the DAO itself. But from that perspective, the ROI is very satisfactory when trying to debt service. And so their willingness to be able to fund that, because they know where things are headed. They know the importance of the crypto ecosystem and what they want to accomplish. And so we're open to it. So if somebody has David Moss cell phone, send it over via DM and let's see what we can do.
Do you guys have any other immediate or potential partnerships that you can share with us that you haven't mentioned yet?
I will say that Sony is a part of the resort that we talked about in Nevada, and that's something that we want to grow with. I will say that there is a potential partnership with a oil and gas firm that it's only for renewable energy. And that's it. It's not for anything traditional oil and gas. That's not announced yet, but will be. There is a bank, perhaps the beginning of Q1 for that announcement. But that bank is, it's going to be backing a lot of these initial projects. There's an OTC firm that's in the mix as well. That's a wing of Chase New York. I can say that is going to be doing a lot of the exchanging from fiat into crypto, and that crypto is what's landing with us here. But again, from a legal structure perspective, and that's something that we could probably talk about for a very long time. Our thought has been, just based on the current makeup in the United States, is an offshore approach at first. Think Comoros, think, Singapore to a degree, think Malta, and then gradually getting into, as things kind of really become more assured in the States, imagine a series of Wyoming DAO LLCs, for instance, that are Fiscus DAO owned. Again, once the regulations are assured, that would then be able to acquire. Honestly, at that point, we're talking about wholly owning projects. That's the holy grail. That's the harvester of assets in a grand scale, where we are owning it, utilizing either the financial structures. We are owning it. We are receiving all revenue from it. We are spurring adoption on that project. So if it's an apartment complex in Sao Paulo, and we're saying, listen, all payments for this apartment complex need to either be made in FISC or be made in a stable, therefore spurring that adoption. That's where we see things further ahead as we pass kind of the moon and are on our way to Mars. That's where we see those elements. So I know I kind of waxed on that, but that's the thought. So as far as partnerships go, several to be announced. But again, the thought has always been, let's prove it first, because we know that a lot of partnerships will come to the table after several $billion in valuations, and at that point, it's really the DAO's choice whether we engage with those groups or not. Because at the end of the day, and I know it's a weird thing to say, is that from the standpoint now, we don't need them per se. It's if it's a benefit to us, it's something that we should definitely look at, right? We'll never cut off our nose to spite our face, if you will. But long term, it's about let's prove it, and then if it's a complementary partnership, let's go with it. If the DAO agrees.
Love it. Do you guys have any plans to integrate with privacy protocols like Panther, for example?
Not a lot that's been talked about whatsoever. Open to that, fully open to that. The thought on privacy and decentralization. I think this is the element that, even as it pertains to the whitelist, has been, but at the same time, we love decentralization, right? We love the elements of privacy. And so anything that supports that further, we are absolutely about. And so again, by going offshore, if you will, and I say offshore, if you're already offshore, it's just shore. But by being there, it really will allow us a little bit more freedom. And so we want to integrate those elements. So know that we've looked at specifically, but it's not a no. It's just we haven't really dove into it.
Great, thanks. So I want to touch on smart contracts a little bit. Will Fiscus be operating their own smart contract transactions in a similar way to a blockchain company called Propi to track and record the financial transactions? Or do you guys perceive partnering with a similar company?
I think partnering, to a degree, I think is a better element for us on that. And the reason that I say this, and Donnie could definitely weigh in on this too, but we have our core competencies, right? And because we're doing something that is so different and yet so large, we know that on certain elements we don't want to get bogged down. And so it makes sense from that perspective to really include them. We're waiting on some phenomenal to kind of pop up that also would give us a great mechanism for, kind of a dual valuation. That's something where, and again, this is really kind of in the future when we're looking at, NFTs that represent, wholly owned properties or wholly owned businesses or wholly owned revenue streams, where we have kind of that dual valuation of, it's worth this off chain and right now it's worth this on chain. And we kind of close that gap as much as possible. And so I think the short answer would be yes. What are your thoughts on that, Don?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about partnerships, strategic partnerships with as it pertains to assets, off-chain assets. But, truthfully, having operational partnerships that give us an expertise where we might lack makes sense to us, because at the end of the day, we have revenues that are coming in. We're not trying to blow this up into a bureaucracy, a big brick and mortar company with 20 floors of employees. So we have no problem in delegating to reputable firms that have a proven track record to provide some operational support for us. So, in that respect, we will use that, as it comes. But yes, I mean, anything that we believe that adds not only value but security. I mean, listen, let's be truthful. Maybe 2 weeks ago, people thought this was a rug pull. So, obviously we know it's not. You can defer those questions all you want, but in the whole scheme of things, the community security is important to us because you're invested in it, and I'm not talking about just money, just time as well. So, providing an extra layer of, okay, you know what, they provide this for us in this regard, a myriad of different services that are out there, and it's happening every day, on the blockchain. Everyone knows that. So, vetting those things, even having relationships with our members, that's, hey, I know this firm that does this, and so those kinds of things we definitely want to explore and use. We're not trying to build this up into a 3,000 employee bureaucracy, because we think we have enough talent even in our community to help. So as far as that goes, yes, absolutely.
Well said.
Strategic operational partnerships, are key.
Well said. And even going along with that too, even looking at from the perspective of like a ProPy, that's something that the original model, which again, looking at that base model, because everything grows based on that, we don't have long-term liability. We don't have long-term risk in projects. And partly that was due to us saying, okay, listen, let's just tackle the great ROI. It's low-hanging fruit. It's our project development partners to also be leading. So a lot of those partnerships that one would say, okay, well, is that a partnership for Fiscus or not? It may not be a partnership for us, but it could very well be a partnership with the actual project developer. And that's something that we would be able to go to them. The DAO would be able to go to them and say, listen, we think this is a great partnership. And even to a degree, mandate. We feel like this is what needs to be done in order for this to happen. And so that's kind of a furtherance of that thought of, yes, to partnerships, but they might not be for us. They could be for our project development partners.
Great, thanks. In recent AMAs, you guys have suggested that NFT holders will be given the opportunity to present business opportunities to the DAO. Are there going to be geographic restrictions on those? And will you guys be providing a set parameters for the prospective projects that they have to sit within, or is it kind of free game within your jurisdiction?
I think that's the funnest question that we've been asked probably tonight. So non-geographic, there's a few countries, obviously. There's individuals that OFAC list and things like that those would not be furthered from the project finance side. But the great thing about, Princess Varay and her network, and the great thing about, Dr. Murati, and the networks that they've tied together with Fiscus, the great things about, my relationships and Donnie's relationships is that they're worldwide. And so, no, there is not a geographical limit outside of those, excluded countries. There's not. And so there will be set guidelines so that if a community member that holds an NFT feels like they have a viable project, and it's in their expertise, or it's not in their expertise, and they have someone else that they know that has a viable project, and they've gone to them and tied themselves with them, and because they're part of Fiscus, they have this entry, and they bring that project. It can absolutely be put through the submission pipeline, if you will, and so they'll know if it's fully viable or not, and then they'll be able to get in queue to be able to be funded via the mechanisms that are in place. And so if you were to zoom out, because I think that's why this question is so fun, if you were able to zoom out, you would see Fiscus DAO as community-owned projects, right? Member-owned projects. I think we even kind of settled on a mock for a term. Member-owned projects that are brought from Fiscus DAO members that are vetted. You know, if there's opportunities for those in the DAO to be able to participate in the project directly, like for instance, we have a stellar community. I'm thinking of Tram in France, you know, and our phenomenal community there in Europe. You have and everything is within 2 hours in Europe. You know, it's if you're there and there's elements for you to be able to participate in that project directly because of the skill set that you have, we want that to be tied together in the DAO first and then outside afterward. And so if you were to zoom out, you would see an ecosystem where, again, we're not the normal DAO where, you know, the ecosystem is everything on chain. Zoom out. It's bigger than that. You know, our ecosystem is, okay, you have this project. There's DAO members that are part of the project. FISC from the Treasury is putting up the set aside at no risk to FISC. The project finance on chain that we've brought is funding the project. There's revenue that's generated that's going back to the NFT holders, and that would be full. And that's quite honestly unlike anything that's been attempted. And the great thing is that it sounds maybe a little difficult at times, but it's really not. It's really not. It's done off chain every single day. And so by us having, again, that expertise to be able to bring those elements on chain, it's awesome. It's awesome, and we're very excited about it.
Great news. So obviously in various areas of the world, especially the US, there's going to be some regulatory risk. What do you guys plan to do to mitigate that?
First things first is really existing in certain jurisdictions, and a lot of the weight of that is on the project finance, and I think that's why, you know, we really initially chose, you know, project finance firms that specialize in private project finance, that aren't necessarily, you know, bank owned, that are in more or less kind of exist not outside of but next to. You know, they're able to do things that, you know, a large bank may not be able to do. And so that was the first approach. So that combined with offshore gives us a great sense of security from a regulation standpoint. But again, long term, we do want the DAO to own. But the DAO won't own those projects in those higher regulatory areas until that has been resolved. Because at the same time, we don't want to misstep. You know, a misstep is a mistake, you know. And so with that being said, we'll play it conservatively and just grow the treasury to the moon. And when the time is right and everything is good and the DAO agrees and the regulation is sound, then we'll go about that. We also have, which I think is great, we have several members that have already availed themselves of going down kind of the rabbit hole on legal opinions to be able to tackle that element in the States, to be able to tackle that element in the UK. And so that's something that we're very excited about, you know, and that's the power of all of us, right? That's the power of all of us, is being able to really tackle these complex things and not sacrifice the trajectory of where we're going, and be able to do that at the same time. So we'll get there would be the short answer, but until then, we don't want to make a mistake.
Great. So just to clarify, you guys have mentioned that the team proper doesn't have any token allocation pre-launch. Do you guys have NFTs, or will you be buying at a totally separate level than everybody else?
Yeah, we don't have NFTs. We don't have anything pre-launch. So our thought has always been, because we know where it's going, and we look at it like this: if you know where it's going, where you get in is not as important. And so the thought has been in LBP that we would be participants potentially in the LBP. When we first began, we thought maybe in the whitelist, but that's a no. That's an absolute no. So it's LBP, and at launch. We'll be there at launch. With the project developers, the owners, because we know where it's going. At the end of the day, we just know where it's going. And so from us, because we know that, because we know the myriad of assets that will be brought to the table, if we happen to get in at $1,000 price point, so be it. But if we're there, and obviously we'll get some yield alongside everybody else. But it's when we say it's the culmination of our life's work, it is that, and we're excited by that. We know that, and again, we don't look down on any other DAO, on any, allocation, on any, on VCs. Again, those are great elements that make the capital markets work, that make crypto work, that get projects off the ground. We know that. But when it comes to us, from our perspective, knowing where it's going is it. And we feel that we show our dedication of knowing where it's going by not holding NFTs, by not participating in the whitelist.
Great answer. I think that's really reassuring to a lot of us. So we have about 10 questions left. I'm not sure where you're at on time.
Let's do it. No, let's do it.
Great.
We're here to answer all of them.
Awesome. So will the staking rewards after the coins are dropped and released, will they auto compound?
Yes.
Great.
Easy answer. Yeah, easy answer on that one. Yes.
Do you guys have a definite date on the white paper?
We do not. But I would definitely say before the whitelist, that the white paper will be out. Articles obviously on Fiscus Projects will be out. We want everybody to know before the whitelist where we're at, what we're truly about on a deep level. So everybody that's kind of waiting for that true deep dive has everything they need to be able to make the decision or not, if they want to, participate in the lottery per se, or get things ready for the LBP at that point, or what have you. So that's kind of the answer to that.
Okay. Are you guys going to have a system in place for whitelisted members to donate any unused portion of their allocation to other people, or do you see that getting to be too confusing?
And Donnie may weigh in on this even more than me, because he's the true accounting side. But I would say, and again, this is maybe a discussion. This is a thought that did come up. But I would say that it would be too tedious on the donation that way. I mean, we're talking about, of the 1,500. If 300 or 400 might have said, you know what, we're good because we're able to have, NFTs. It could be a little tedious that way. Yeah, it could be a little tedious that way. But again, it's a thought, and that's something that I think Donnie and his team will probably think about maybe a little bit and see if it's something that's entertained.
Do you guys have any? Oh, sorry.
Just to that point, we've discussed that. I mean, we know that people, are willing to give up their spot, the whitelist, to somebody. That's a hard decision to make, just because of the implications of it. It's not what you know, it's who you know, kind of thing, and that gives us cringes us a little bit, but we'll discuss that a little bit more as we get closer to that. I know some people have said, "Hey, I'm going to give someone my whitelist," but it may not be a specific person they can give it to. They may just put it back in the pool. That would be probably the short answer to that. to create fairness. But yeah, so that's being discussed and hadn't been finalized, but that's what we're leaning towards. That we recognize it's a very tedious process to do that.
Got it. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any plans to create a wrapped FISC token?
Not a bad idea. I think long term, yes. Yeah, long term, we want, again, Avalanche being home, but long term, we see that there being a need, especially with Fiscus Plus. We see there being a need for it. Yeah, we see there being a need for it. So I think the short answer would be yes. Day one, obviously, not specifically, but yes.
So how will company and asset valuation affect the market cap of Fiscus? For example, if a company valued at $1 billion is brought on chain, can you estimate how you think that would affect the price?
Sure. Again, these are the questions that I love. These are the ones that I think this is where we started, honestly. We love taking a view of what is actual known revenue. And so from a treasury perspective, again, when we look at what's there, what's truly is there to us is really based in what are the tokens that are there? What are the coins that are held? So when we say, let's say again that it's a business that's purchased, it's going to be based on cash flow. Cash flow to us is really king. And so, we're weighted a lot more heavily towards that than any, let's say, industry multiple or anything else. So, even in just to give an example in that way, when we look at commercial real estate, some of the transactions that we're looking at, I think about 6 or 7, all have master leases in play. We're looking at credit tenant properties that have, of course, leased with the most well-known firms, in the world. And so based on that, it's almost like having bond exposure. Therefore, it's not so much based on the value of the property itself. And that's kind of how we view things. We want to say what is based in reality. We feel economically 2022, 2023, various markets will have some turbulence. We know that. And so again, that's why we want to be more heavily weighted on stables. That's why we want to, again, from a perspective of the revenue that we receive from projects or from businesses, it's really extra. The core is what's in the treasury to determine the value of FISC. Everything on top of that, and that could be those NFTs inside of the treasury. It could be ownership inside of the treasury. For us, that's a different element to it. It doesn't have the same value for us.
Great. Could you touch on the current state of the smart contract and the web app development?
Yes. So I believe the mock-up for the web app development should be available on Tuesday, which we're kind of excited about. Again, on smart contract, we actually brought in thought it was going a little bit slow. So we brought in another developer just to kind of do a little, I wouldn't call it grunt work. And again, I'm not severely versed in smart contracts, said that from the very beginning, but we know what we're going to accomplish. We know, where we're headed with it and all of the things surrounding that. And so what I feel like is that not only will we have mock-up before whitelist, but we really want a fully functional site before whitelist as well. So there can be what amounts to, and I'm thinking of some of the other protocols where you could kind of log in and do a test and have, kind of test rebases and get used to the mechanics of it, because we know that upon launch, we want everyone to have been comfortable with it if they could be at that point. So videos, being developed with that. Again, that's part of now having Don Alley as full-time creative director. A lot of those elements really will kind of speed up when it comes to user experience, if you will, member experience. And then again, on that smart contract side, making the shift to Paladin other than Certic, bringing in another developer. We're ready and willing to even kind of double down on that a little bit more, so that ideally all of that is done pre-whitelist. That's our objective. And again, we'll keep everybody updated on that if it happens to be shortly after and at LBP. But that's the goal right now.
Awesome. So you've mentioned Paladin twice now. Could you elaborate a little bit on what Paladin is and what they do?
Sure. Utilizing them for auditing. I know that recently they just did. Who was it? We were just talking about it earlier. They just did. I believe it's Wonderland, actually. I know offhand that they found, and again, just putting this out there in case somebody didn't know, that they found about 85 issues in other Ohm fork audits. And so again, we like their veracity, right? We always want to use the best. But again, we want to know if there's any issues. We want to know if there's any holes. It's not unlike other protocols. And again, we say this all the time, and we'll keep saying it. We are not just trying to throw up a token and throw up a big APY and then see what happens, right? It's much more structured and much more planned than that from the standpoint of where we're headed. And so based on that, it needs to be absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because, we view it as all of the members have entrusted us with resources. They've entrusted us with their thoughts. They've gotten out of other things so that they could aid Fiscus, right? They've gotten out of other things so that they can be a part of this journey that we're headed. And so based on that, that's why we, definitely are making that shift with Paladin over Searching.
Have you guys made any determinations on the prerequisites for the grant and scholarship program yet, or is that still being discussed?
Definitely still being discussed, early on that. The thought has been, from the very beginning, adoption, stability, and growth, and of crypto. And we're not even necessarily saying of Fiscus DAO with that, and so we look at it and saying, okay, we know that the world needs more developers. And so, how do we incentivize? Well, we can incentivize by providing scholarships, by providing grants. We know that many members have, smaller projects and smaller ideas that have phenomenal social elements and social benefits that they're not going to make a lot of money. I mean, they're just not that type project. And again, we are capitalists, but we have hearts. And based on that, we want those type projects to qualify for those scholarships and grants. So very early on that, I would also say, and this is just kind of a side point, and again, maybe we don't, because a lot of our members, profiles are somewhat ambiguous, but we want to make sure that from a diversity standpoint that we're well represented as well. And so, that could mean having, committees that really promote that, whether it's committees for specifically for women and those that identify as such, whether it's for, those indigenous, that's an element. And you guys will see based on the background of Princess Veray, for an example, where, there's a specialty there when it comes to indigenous. Some of the projects that you're going to see that are coming to Fiscus from her network involve the Philippines. They involve Hawaii. They involve indigenous groups. They involve indigenous groups in New Zealand. I mean, they're just phenomenal. They have this element not only of being for profit, but also that social element. And so we're not ever pushing a certain agenda, because we know our membership is wider than that. Our team is wider than that. But at the same time, we don't want to exclude. And so the scholarships and the grants are a way for us to truly be able to do that.
Love it. So for every dollar that is vested into this project, how much capital can be spent on projects in the real world? For example, in a 50% equity, 50% debt, where every dollar vested yields $2 working capital.
Oh yeah, I love this. So it's phenomenal. The short answer is 20 to 1. That's really the short answer. We have a couple mechanisms in play to really kind of increase that. And again, most people would say, man, that's a lot of leverage. That's a lot of leverage. But when you have that amount of leverage and yet we don't have any of the upside, we don't have any of the risk, right? We don't have the outstanding. I was going to say outstanding, not upside. We don't have any of the outstanding risk associated with that. It's great for Fiscus. It's phenomenal. For us to be able to come in and tackle a $13 billion project while only having, let's say, 10 million allocated from the treasury, and being able to do it in what we refer to as stair steps, kind of taking small bites that are increasing in size and varying in term. That gives us the ability to do a lot and have outside amounts of revenue come into the treasury. That's almost the secret sauce, if you will. The leverage is the secret sauce in a way, but doing so without having the risk that comes with that. So from a project owner perspective, they're in a situation where they may have an increase of debt. They're leveraged, if you will, but their projects are sound to have even passed muster in the first place. And so there's a good balancing act there where Fiscus is last in and first out and receives an ROI that's commensurate with someone that normally would be putting up 30-40% in equity, and yet we're only putting up 4 and 5%, just for a short time and without transactional risk. So we really feel that it's great. I mean, there's really no other way to say that. It's really great in that sense.
Great. So how will the physical project finance assets be tracked? Is there going to be a tab on the website with existing investments and their description or return?
Yes, that's something that has definitely been discussed, where there's we know that kind of in the normal corporate sense, there's quarterly reporting and you kind of know where everything is at. We want more than just the normal from the project to exist on chain. And so again, that's why when I say earlier that question about like Propy, it's great because some of the things that they do would be great for our project developers and owners, but it would also give Fiscus that transparency day after day and month over month without just waiting on this, this quarterly report that in a way could be even biased, right? And so based on that, we want more than the normal, but at the very least, yes, something on not only the site but in Discord too, that has existing projects and what they contributed to the treasury. Obviously everyone will know at the beginning what projects we're looking at, the principles that are involved, what it's worth to the treasury, if there's a revenue component attached to it, what it's done, over the last year, 2 years, 5 years, if it's an existing project, if it's something that, again, 2 and 5 years from now, some of these initial projects, then it will show what they have accomplished in that time frame, and the benefits to FISC, not just from a financial standpoint, but if there were any other benefits, such as, I'm just picking a member at random, such as like DonPoppy.eth, if he ended up working for that project in a certain role or certain capacity, then we want to see kind of the impact on members as well. So short answer is all of that and more potentially.
Fantastic. We're about winding down a little bit here. I just wanted to touch a little bit on taxes. Are there going to be any specifics regarding borrowing against your FISC tokens?
No specifics yet. And again, we know that there's some great elements there. No elements yet. We do want that kind of semi kind of Rari-esque pool, I guess you could say, that's established, that because we do know that some will have, life events at time where they certainly don't want to sell their FISC, but it's something that they want to leverage or loan against or 99, or there's some different things that we like to look at, 2727. But whatever those situations may be, yes, we want to assist that as much as possible. And so for us to be able to do that, it could very well be kind of a DAO sponsored pool that does that. That has been discussed, but wouldn't be finalized for day one by any means yet.
Got it. Will the DAO provide any like CPA tax advice or be open to posting CPA tax advice? I'm not sure really how it works in other parts of the world, but I know here in NA, with an accounting background, if you want to do it legitimately, it's probably going to be a little difficult.
Yeah, and I'll defer to Donnie on that. I mean, there's definitely some thoughts that have been tossed around, but again, being more global, being fully decentralized, it's kind of it's the elephant in the room, and it's a little smaller than I think some other elements of regulation, but it's definitely there. What are your thoughts on that, Donnie?
Well, I mean, we as a DAO, we can't give just like you can't give financial advice, you can't give accounting advice either in our capacity. Obviously, some of us are CPAs, so we can at least touch on some of that stuff. But in that regard, we do plan to have some opinion letters that'll guide the members into how to deal with their taxes. My stance on off project taxes in that regard is to push everything to the project development. That they'll take care of that, and we just recognize our own thing. So flow, especially in the U.S. where a lot of structures are pass through entities. If people know what I'm talking about. The pass-through entities, yes, they pass through the income, but they also pass through the complexity. So we don't want to necessarily do that. We want to keep it simple. And truthfully, from a revenue standpoint, and that's what we're concentrating on at first, it is simplified. When you get into the equity, and we use that word sparingly, for the DAO to own certain assets, it does make those things, the administrative side, I call it, which is taxes and such, especially in all the different jurisdictions that we might participate in, it makes it complex. So we certainly want to simplify that. If we do come up with known issues that need to be addressed, then we will certainly try to provide that information through a CPA firm, a reputable one, of course. And those kinds of things. So at least the members know, okay, how to approach this. Everyone's tax situation is different. We know that, not just in the U.S., but certainly across the globe. So those things have to be considered. But we can't give that advice directly, but we certainly can provide at least information on how you guys can approach that.
Yeah,
awesome.
wonderful.
Thanks.
I would even add to that too, that even from that project level, the great thing about the network of Princess Viray that's been tied to Fiscus is that all of the projects that stem through that network, and it's something I think we really want to kind of push as an agenda, even potentially for all projects, even those community sponsored and brought forth, would be, I know on that side, PwC is there for auditing. And so that's something that initially we would love for them to have some element of on-chain, in a bigger capacity. Whereas right now, maybe they're not to that level. But long term, we would love that. So, there is some things, again, just to mimic what Donnie was saying, as much as possible, it's done on the project side for sure.
Awesome. Thanks. So last two questions are more server related. Has the issue to get verified on Discord been fixed yet?
I believe that it has been fixed. If someone has an issue as of today, it's something that we definitely need to know. So the issue was, and it's one of those like simple annoying issues, complex annoying issues, something that starts small and ends up, being more than small. The membership screening is the only screening that's there, and so we relaxed the bot guard, if you will, so that verification on that get verified page isn't there. Someone can come in; they're automatically auto rolls are established, so they are a Fiscian, which will be changed to a Fiscalite, and it will also abide by our new kind of chess methodology moving forward. They would be a pawn at that point. And so, yes, we feel that it has. But again, if some are still experiencing that or it continues to be an issue, let us know. One element of the membership screening is that someone does need to have a verified email with Discord, not specifically with us. It's just with Discord. So some don't even see that because they already are verified. They're in other servers. But if they're not, that is an element that has to be done, and then agreeing to the membership requirements, which are just 4 or 5 things that are in most servers. With us, that last point is a little bit different, but outside of that, we definitely feel that it has been resolved.
Awesome. Then the final question was, there's been some discussion about a reward system for community content creators. Have you guys had any further discussions, and in what form do you expect rewards to take place?
I definitely think we're open to this, and Donnie might speak on it more because I do know that the original thought was even a small set aside, to use that word again, or to use that word differently, a small set aside of NFTs, level ones that would be available, from now into as we progress, for that. We have, the awarding of the Fiscalite as a community name. We have the awarding set to be tweeted of the community tagline. Also the memes, which were just incredible. The outpouring of content is just amazing, and we know that moving forward, that spurs engagement. That keeps everything lively. As we go about the process of doing Fiscus, that also keeps everyone happy and engaged, and it keeps it as a fun place because we want it to be that. We never want it to be stagnant. And so rewards and gamification is definitely a part of that. Again, those that have suggestions, this is a DAO, right? This is a DAO purely. So DM with those suggestions, DM with those thoughts, DM with those elements that you've seen that have worked phenomenally at other places and other servers, and let's get into it.
Yeah, just to speak on that point, I think we might lean towards just a pure airdrop of tokens as opposed to on those giveaways, as opposed to using a NFT process. Those haven't been finalized, but yes, there is a small set aside for those things to reward, and because we want to keep the community engaged, we want to spur, I guess, some innovation. So that's why that's there. So, but yeah, I think it would be a pure airdrop is kind of my vote. In dealing with these NFTs, but that hasn't been finalized yet.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. What else do we have? We have one more. You said, see Fiscus or no?
No, I think that's it. I just wanted to say thank you guys for all your hard work, all of our wonderful mods. Everybody's pouring their heart and soul into the server, and it shows. I think everybody's doing great.
Thank you so much, and thanks for coordinating all these questions as well. So from here, let's open it up. Those that have been here, and everybody's been here almost, is it 2 hours? Has it really been 2 hours? We still have 600 people here, 609 in the audience. So I see some that have requested. I'm not sure if they've been up there just for a long time or not, but we'll go through those. I'll bring up maybe 2 at a time. Let's start with, I think we have No Man and Mr. Eights.
Do you need me to move down to the audience now?
Yes.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, C. Fiscus.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, No Man.
Hey, I just want to say thank you. This is an awesome opportunity to get hopefully whitelisted on through Cryptonaires. And I had a quick question. That's something that Crypto Sensei had said about a form that whitelisters need to get filled out. Is that something that you guys are working with them on? Or would that come directly from Cryptonaires?
It is. It's something that we're working directly with Sensei on, and it will definitely be a form. We want it to be as streamlined as possible for whitelisting. And the best way for us to do that is really by having individual forms for the categories that those already qualify in. That's going to allow us to do two things. One, that's going to allow us to be able to cross-reference very quickly, to be able to make sure that there's no double allocations there. And then two, it's just streamlined and lets everybody know exactly where they fit in. So yes, you will receive that over the next, honestly, I would say over the next day or 2 days. That's something that we want to start. Again, we're never in a
Okay.
rush, but at the same time, we want to make sure everybody has plenty of time.
Awesome. And will that come from you guys or from them?
That'll be finalized. It will be an official Fiscus DAO form, and you'll know that because there will be
Okay.
posting. There'll be all that. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and bring up Steve. I think it is here. Steve 33. And you are muted, my friend, if you want to speak, and we'll bring
Unmuted now. Looks like
Yes,
it's
you are.
working.
Go right ahead.
Appreciate your time. Got a couple questions. This one popped out about I don't know if it's been answered before, but how's the current team being compensated? Is it salary tokens? Are you guys just working towards a different goal? And then number two was when these projects are being put together, the off-chain projects, how is Fiscus being represented? Is it being represented like an investment firm, like a crypto treasury? How are you getting how should I say, validation as somebody that can step in and fund these projects and get that work with them?
Yeah, both great questions. So, first question is no. It's us really just saying, okay, we know where this project is going. We're sold out to that fact, but at the same time, we know that long term there has to be a DAO budget. There will be those that are absolutely salaried. That's something that we've been in discussion with for various admin roles. Various high level moderation roles. Roles as it relates to the legal aspects of Fiscus DAO. But speaking on the second, I think is even the most exciting. Originally, the draw was utilizing our existing relationships over the last 20 years. And so with that, it was easy to open the door because everyone knows what a DAO can do from a total value lock perspective, right? And so based on that, again, you pull up nobody heard of a year ago, you pull it up, $3.5 billion in TVL. It's a force. Obviously, what they're doing is great and it's outsized, but just in looking at the growth of DAOs, that has been noticeable from a lot of normally fiat-based people, right? And so those that are in the project finance side are a lot more open-minded than even those in traditional banking, in wholesale banking, and in all those areas. And so it was really kind of an easy sell initially to say, listen, what do you think about bringing your entire network and funding it this way? And so based on that, it was an easy sell. Moving forward, money talks, right? Our ability to do that for a project makes it very simple because at the end of the day, if I'm a project developer and I have an opportunity to, in essence, receive 100% financing for a project that I want to do, I really don't care if I'm that person. I don't care if it's crypto based or if it's non-crypto based, right? I really just want to see the project done. And so that's kind of how that's gone so far, and obviously we benefited from that today.
Makes sense. I got one more follow up
Sure.
exactly on that. There was mentions of investments that have committed after launch. Will they be holding tokens? And are these investment firms or hedge funds? And if so, why hasn't there any allocations been pre-launched to them at a discounted price because they've committed so early?
Sure. No, they're not hedge funds, just project developers, project owners, normal commercial entities, and no token allocation because it was never part of the negotiation. From day one, it was never part of the negotiation. You know, for them, the biggest element that they were looking for was simply being funded. And so based on that, they don't see themselves as investors in a crypto project. You know, they see themselves as this is a mechanism that allows them to be funded. And so now, and that's a phenomenal question, by the way. So extrapolate that now and say, okay, if that's the methodology that project developers and owners have, for those that haven't been in that world, that's what it looks like. They are interested in getting their project funded. And so if the stipulations say that they need to buy, 5 barrels of oil every 3 days, or they need to buy 14 Teslas and they're going to receive 100 million in funding, those are just requirements that have to be done in their eyes. And so for us, it's a much easy sell to say, okay, listen, we need this required ROI, and you need to purchase this amount of FISC, which is also an appreciating asset for them. So it's good treasury management for them from their perspective. And so short answer is that it was never part of the negotiation for them to be involved in FISC from that perspective, because we didn't want monopolizing by any one large firm at the same time.
Right. So I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around everything you just said right now.
Sure.
Just in very layman's terms, a company's looking for, let's say, $1 billion in financing help, and Fiscus tells them, all right, you got to hold about like 10 million in FISC, and we'll be able to gradually fund this $1 billion project of yours. I know you mentioned a 20-to-1. What was it? The
Leverage. Yeah, 21
leverage situation. Yeah, can you kind of bring those two together, or am I missing something in that puzzle that I'm not understanding?
You're there, but there's the additional element is this. So for them to qualify that for the financing, and let's say that this is the financing that comes through Princess Varey's project finance firm. If for them to qualify, they need to have, let's say the number for them to have is $5 million in order to qualify for $100 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have it. Enter FISC. FISC comes in. We give that side. That's the term referred to as a set aside. We give that, put up that $5 million. Now that's via smart contract. They don't receive that. It's not converted into fiat. It's not held by some third party where we type of risk. It's more or less shown and proven via the smart contract, similar to an escrow agreement. They now, based on that and having a valuable project, right? The project still has to qualify. They now qualify for the financing. And so on that, we say, now that you receive that financing, we need our 5, and we need at the very least a 25% ROI on that 5, which never left. So that would be $1.25 million. They would go into the treasury on top of the 5 million. So we've accomplished treasury growth. That's the primary objective, number 1. Number 2 is we've mandated that also you need to buy X amount of FISC. Now, in that example, if it's 100 million, it's not that we're necessarily saying $10 million. That would be 10%. That's a large portion that they would need for other things. But whatever we could see and deem is their kind of cash treasury management element. Let's say it's 2 million or 3 million. Then that's what would then be required for them to be able to buy FISC. So what that does is, 1, we've raised the floor because more is coming to the treasury, and 2, we've created an even more deflationary aspect to the token because they now have to also buy the token. And so by us doing that at launch, that's what enables everybody from the NFT and the whitelist and the LBP to be able to sell without the price of FISC crashing, right? That's why we don't have any vesting, is because we've brought in an entirely new element of demand for the token. And that hasn't been done to date that I'm aware of.
Based on what you're saying, there is an element of if these they're trying to get traditional financing, but Fiscus is giving them the stake for traditional financing. If that's what I'm gathering, and then so there is an element of dependency on the real world interest rates and financing and all that on that side. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But remember, when it gets to us, all of that's already been done and we have no exposure to that. But you're right. Yeah, for them to have qualified in the first place, all of that would have to be met. Debt coverage ratios, all that would need to be met. But that's outside of us. We have no bearing on that. We're last in, first out.
Interest rates are extremely low now, and inflation is going through the roof. But is there a market scenario where you could see where it'll be a bottleneck or would slow things down for Fiscus playing that role of staking for these companies or for these projects?
Phenomenal question too. All of these have been phenomenal. No from the perspective of and again, I use this analogy of one man's, as the saying go, one man's junk is another's treasure, right? I mean, look what happened. Let's say in 2007 and 8, somewhat globally. Yes, you had a lot of issues. Yes, a lot of things were going on, but 6 months later, you had some of the greatest, real estate transactions that have been done in the last 50 years happen in 2008 and 2009, and they were financed by some of the same firms that package financing for those that were buying it in 2006 and 2007. And so for us, by staying agnostic almost to the market, by being, I don't want to say above it, but not being directly influenced by it and not having any long-term risk in a project, we're staying agnostic to that whole element. And we've always felt that is the benefit of Fiscus DAO. That's how we can stand here or sit here and say we know that we can add to the treasury floor day in and day out because projects will be done. Now, if it's a project that's buying another deal that was purchased for 20 cents on the dollar and we're putting up that set aside, so be it. If it's the top of the market, and rates are at an entirely different spectrum, and they're financing a deal, and the market is heavy for that deal, and they also need that set aside, we're there to do that. And so based on that, not as much. Again, nothing is perfect, but not as much from those perspectives that we're seeing whatsoever.
I love it, man. Thank you. I really appreciate all the answers. And if you accept my friend request, I'd like to figure out a way where I can contribute going forward from here on a little bit more.
Phenomenal. And thank you for those great questions too. We appreciate that. All right, so let's bring up, I have next on the list, I'm going to bring up Nate Newman. And then okay, Nate, you're with us.
Hi, how are you today? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
The question I have for you is, if somebody is in the Fiscus DAO booster to the point where they've qualified for the whitelist via booster, and they're also a CryptoNairs Super Bull, which form should they fill out, or should they elaborate that they have done both?
There will be a spot on each form that allows someone to say if they are in other groups. So great question.
Okay, so then just elaborate all the things that you have done that require you the access to the whitelist. Elaborate everything. Okay.
That's right.
And the only follow-up I have for that tonight, sir, and I just wanted to thank you both. You guys both are very intelligent. You know your stuff, and I'm very excited for the future of this project. Last question I really wanted to say to you guys is, when it comes to officially purchasing the whitelist in the allocation period of the 10th to the 12th, what should we be expecting? Are we purchasing it and sending it to a wallet and expecting an airdrop on launch day, or are we purchasing tokens and seeing that in our wallet as soon as we purchase that?
Phenomenal question. The prevailing thought right now, and this will be in the announcement, but the prevailing thought right now is very similar to what a couple of the other DAOs have done, which is this almost pre-FISC token, right? This pre-FISC token, so that you actually have something. You have something. Then it's not a hope and a prayer. Even though, again, I know that everyone knows where we're headed and where we're going, and the liquidity lock and all those good things. Still want there to be that tangible element, and that will honestly help us later on, because then it will simply be a swap for that. So we're patterning that in a way, I guess you could say, remembering the egg climber. I know that that might be a not
Yeah, I
super
remember
great
the egg
example,
lemma very well.
but yeah,
that's a
something
good
like
example.
that. Yeah, something like that.
So
Absolutely.
ultimately, I could just give an example of this. I would use like $30,000 limit phase 1, make it AVAX. I have AVAX. I buy your pre-Fiscus coin, and then on launch, I would trade that pre-Fiscus coin for Fiscus coin.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay,
spot
thank
on.
you so much, sir, for your time. My questions are answered entirely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you, Nate. Those are great questions that we hadn't really spoke too much on yet. So I'm going to bring up here the next on my list. I have Coffee Block and Casio. This guy out of order now.
Hey, Cal, can you hear me?
I can. Go right ahead, my friend.
Yeah, trying to extend on the conversation we had earlier about NFTs. So a lot of these are going on OpenSea, and we get that those don't come with token allocations. And a lot of people are asking me, how do you value the actual price of an NFT right now? Just standalone, what is the NFT price? So earlier you mentioned you've got like 1.6 billion coming into the treasury over time. And then you were talking to me that's saying NFT owners, depending on your current level, are going to get a percentage of off-chain income. So can you help me understand the NFT ownership, what we're going to get if we own an NFT versus what is going into a treasury?
Sure, absolutely, great question. So let's use an example for that now. Going back to the nodes and mining. Let's say that the profit is $15 million. Let's just say a year. That portion of profit that would go to NFT owners. So that's obviously it's converted into crypto if it's not already. Preferably FISC, if not a stable. It's would be paid out directly to the NFT holder. The way that we've designed the structure now is it's redeemable. Even the thought of having it really kind of auto paid out, so it's not something that you could really forget, making it kind of a true passive income type scenario. And then those that have the level 3, so you got 3, 2, and 1. The 3 is at a higher rate allocation of that profit. And that's in reference to the fact that those level 3s have a higher value. And that's how we really kind of firm that value. Of course, initially that value was based on the token allocation. But even long term, we want that value of that level 3 NFT to be higher based on the fact of the larger share of revenue. And so we're finalizing that, but the thought right now is about a 15-1. So the level 3 would be at 15, and let's just say any base number you would put with that. So if it was a million DAI, let's just say, that level 3 would get 15 times that base level. So it would go 1 at level 1, 2 at level 2, and 15 at level 3. However, it's not lost on us that for the original NFT owners that are holding those, that's not an accurate, representation or scale based on the original price, the 50,000, 10,000. And so that's still to be determined, but we want it to really be commensurate, not just to the original purchase price, but also to what we view as long-term benefits. So the level 3 will absolutely have more and additional long-term benefits than the level 2 and the level 1. And that's, of course, just a function of capitalism right there.
Yeah, got it. So I guess one pinpoint question on that. There's essentially two buckets. One bucket's going to the treasury, and then there's a percentage that goes to NFT holders. And then within the NFT bucket, it's just allocated based on level 3, 2, or 1.
Yes. And again, that bucket is not from every transaction that Fiscus DAO does, but that's from all of the transactions that have a revenue component to it. And when we wholly own properties, then the revenue from those that's really when we feel that it really kicks in for the NFT owners in a large way, is when we're wholly owning projects, and then there's the benefit. And that's why I think I was even quoted as saying at one point of I would hang on to them. There's a benefit definitely in hanging on to them, and that's that at that project level, those yields in aggregate terms really start to increase.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you as well. All right, let's see. I have here, we have, let's see, Javelin, who's from Cryptonaires. And then I'll also bring up Fancy Steven. And if you can hear us, go right ahead. Fancy Steven, you are on mute.
Hey, look at that. I found the button. I'm very excited. Actually, Coffee stole some of my thunder, but because I was going to ask how that was allocated, because at the point I could only I got a few of the level 1 NFTs of what I could do at the time. But as far as let's go back to the whitelist, and you were talking about I said about an NFT. I know I'm on the whitelist. So, but then you said there was going to be like a second thing. Is that just going to be a second go around? So if somebody wanted to buy some more tokens, they could do that. How does that going to?
Yeah, in a nutshell, a second round, and still to be determined, because we want it to be the fairest possible. But yes, definitely a second round for those that would want to be able to buy an additional token allocation or come in a little bit more heavily. Then that's their opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just didn't know if that was just for the lottery people, or we're talking about the people that were the original NFTs and what do you call that? To do the thing with the Discord and then the Super Bowls.
Right. No, yeah, it's definitely for everybody. It's open market.
Okay, great. That was my question, and then the Coffee took my other question. So there you go.
Wonderful. Thank you for the questions. Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and bring up Iman 24. So I have next on the list. Also bring up James MDXT if Iman's not able to get on. If either of those aren't able to get on, I'll make sure it's not me here. Then I'll try to bring up Juan Miguel Herrera. I think I missed him.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
I didn't realize I have to click accept there. So love what you guys are doing. Congrats for having such an ambitious plan here and trying to create a decentralized financial institution. With something as disruptive as what you're attempting here, it feels like traditional finance is going to try to fight back hard, employing lobbying power to try to regulate this and similar projects into the ground. So my question is, what regulatory obstacles do you see coming, and what is the team doing to avoid that? And if you can, in your answer, perhaps speak to KYC and what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. But phenomenal question too. Getting back to it, I think we might have touched on it earlier, but definitely not a deep dive. The thought has been cooperation, right? And so we even from the outset, by us focusing on that set aside, by focusing on that piece that a lot of times is traditional equity, what's happening is that the project owners and developers they still have a phenomenal banking relationship that flourishes, and we really push that and we promote that. And the reason we do that is because we want to be viewed kind of cooperatively in that sense, by a traditional bank coming in and in a way putting up the 80%, 90%, that's needed in the other elements of the capital stack. And so the initial thought was always to be cooperative in that way. From a regulatory standpoint, we know that for the DAO itself, as it grows, absolutely, it's going to be, we will have more eyes upon us as we hit, certain values in the treasury. We could be deemed as such. And so for us, it's about full decentralization in the sense of, let's be in jurisdictions that are welcoming at first, and really take that approach to those that may not be, of kind of pushing it and saying, okay, what really do you need to see for us to be here? What do you need for us to be able to provide you, really, for us to be here? And so it could 100% be an element where we have in a way a multiplicity of DAOs. For instance, there could come a point where there is a specific DAO that's set up in a certain way that is for the U.S. market. That's not off the table. Again, at the end of the day, we want to be cooperative in the sense with banks. We want to be cooperative in the sense with regulation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for that. So, if I understood that correctly, if it came down to it, you would not be opposed to restricting this, such that U.S. citizens cannot take a part of it if it comes down to that.
Right. For us, the standpoint is if it comes down to it, we would absolutely want everyone to be able to participate. So whatever KYC that would mean for them specifically, that's something that we would absolutely be open to. We're not opposed to that. We're never trying to skirt that by any way. We definitely want that to be known. But for us, it's definitely about staying at a distance and letting us come to a kind of a mutually agreeable point, or being able to abide by something, having great legal opinions, pushing that envelope at the same time. But really, it's based on where everything is at now. And if someone has a different view, we're always open to that. But it's really just kind of a wait and see in some of the areas, when it comes to really diving in from an ownership perspective for us. Again, that's why we chose to kind of be away from that initially, because we do see some hurdles there. And so that's why we're waiting, because we don't want to make that misstep.
Great. Thanks a lot for that.
Very welcome. Thank you, and phenomenal questions too. Let's go ahead with Juan Miguel. Go right ahead.
I have a quick question, and I want to go ahead and thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I've been here just listening to everything, and I'm absolutely amazed at what's to come with this project, and absolutely can't wait to be a part of it. I wanted to ask, is there a way that we'd be able to raise money for certain projects within the DAO in the future and be incentivized to do so? Just because I have some experience, and I also know a lot of other people who have experience in raising capital for certain, companies and so forth. So I was kind of thinking about that in my mind, because a lot of the things that we do with raising money, we do promissory notes and stuff like that. But it would be real fun to see, something crypto related, opposed to like guaranteeing someone a promissory note through a bank and so forth. So
yeah, absolutely. Listen, from a project's perspective, Fiscus Projects is just that. We really want, community sponsored, community owned projects, projects that, may need one or two elements that they don't currently have. That last piece, that's the opportunity for FISC. And so for us, if a project is great and it has, the ability and the it's verified, it's sound, We want that directly to go to our project finance partners so that they can say, yes, this project is great. We see the structure. We see what, I'm using you for instance, we see what Juan Miguel has structured in this area, in this area. We know that he needs this last piece in order for this to function. We'll come in and we'll do that. And we need Fiscus to do this. And so absolutely, that's what we are, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. So short answer would be
Okay.
yes. Yep.
Awesome. And one last question: will there be any opportunity in the foreseeable future to acquire a Fiscus DAO NFT besides getting something through the secondary market like OpenSea? Because I'm a part of the Cryptonaires community. I know everyone's been kind of warning against that, just because there's a lot of scams and whatnot going on.
There is that NFT auction would be an opportunity for you to get a nice verifiable, Fiscus DAO NFT. Yeah. So short answer would be that absolutely. Long term, it would be being able to buy them verifiably, ones that are on the secondary market, and being able to know that you're going to receive those yields and rebases for doing so. So yes, would be the answer to both of those.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Have a blessed night. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you so much. And let's go to James, MDXT, and then we'll have Cassio after that.
Hey, sorry about that. It took me a minute to find the accept button, but thanks so much for taking the time tonight. You guys really dove in, on a deep, granular level, and I think it reassured a lot of the community members out there, especially with what's going on in the DAO space. So, hats off to you guys for diving in. Just tagging off that, I'm actually the head of growth for Mandala Exchange, and there's a ton of projects that come to mind, specifically in the renewable energy space, that would just be a fantastic fit for Fiscus. So I shot you a DM regarding that, and hopefully we can chat about that. But the question is, with all these projects, I imagine you have a laundry list of projects who are wanting to get in at this point. Is there some sort of vetting process that you guys go through, or how are these projects specifically being chosen to participate in the DAO aside from the governance factor? Is there a specific vertical or a specific industry you guys are interested in, as opposed to others?
We really span the gamut, and I think that even long term, we want that to be kind of the tenet of Fiscus, where we're not just doing nodes and mining, we're not just doing real estate, we're not just doing renewable energy, but a nice basket, a nice mixture of those things, so that we get exposure to all those things while still being able to obviously profit phenomenally. And so that's the short answer. The more practical day-to-day answer would be that it definitely is there will be a need at a point to more or less have certain funnels, so that we know that we can comparatively compare one solar project to another, or one wind project to another, or one renewable project to another. And so the short answer is, for right now, as we're scaling and growing, it really is about the size of the deal, the willingness of to be able to utilize the financing. Those are the two tenets, honestly. So again, someone like yourself that has a nice project pipeline, welcome. This will be really good for you, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, Darren. Thanks for the answer. Yeah, there's one specifically that sources funds, co-manages these portfolio companies, from development all the way through to completed project, in a few different facets of renewable energy. So would love to discuss that with you. And again, hats off to you guys. Really well done on the progress so far, and looking forward to what's to come.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely reach out. We appreciate that. And let's go to Cassio from Cryptonaires.
And actually, my question is contrarian to the previous individual. So I work for a contractor in the energy space, and I don't necessarily have projects per se, because I have clients reach out to me, but I do have concepts and market opportunities. I think I've been in discussion with some members of your team. So, I mean, when you're looking out into the future, I know that you said like projects would be voted on. Are there also concepts and financial structures, and how aggressive you're going to be on structuring, let's say like a renewable deal, that you guys are open to as well?
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Short answer is yes. And I think I've seen some of that dialogue as well. For us, we feel that FISC is this is this blend of not just project finance and pushing forward projects that would be funded at other places, but really pushing forward the envelope of concepts. So yes, short answer is absolutely. If there were those concepts that are burgeoning that have the ability to really make a sustainable mark on this rock that we all exist on, then absolutely. Those are the things that we want to be on that leading edge, and that we will push our project finance partners to do the same with. And that's kind of the ability that we also have, to where we can be a de facto private equity or VC in a way, to where we're saying, listen, here's this great project. We're coming with the set aside. On top of that, we have these members that have these qualifications that are also going to assist in this project or this concept. And because of that, this is a ready-made deal, and we want to push it forward. So yes, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
and as well as I do, right? What I sent over was a very conservative financial model, and depending on how you lever it up with debt and other things, right, you can thereby increase the return. So I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, that I was hoping that you guys would take that and gauge that with your level of aggressiveness based on your tax accountants and guidance that you receive to basically maximize returns on these types of projects.
Absolutely. And it's there. And just so you know, there's a furtherance of discussion in that'll be happening this next Wednesday. That's already actually on the books. It's in a pack of about 20 projects to discuss next Wednesday. So it's phenomenal. Thank you for that. And obviously we'll be in touch with more details that we need too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very welcome. All right, let's go ahead and let's bring up here. I have Pittman Rello, also Cryptonaires.
I'm sorry, you actually answered my question already. It was about the regulations. I forgot.
Okay, no problem. Listen, great question. Now we know the question was equally as important to you as well, so no problem whatsoever. All right, let's go ahead and bring up S&M FX, and I'll also bring up Freed from Cryptonaires as well. And go ahead, S&M, and you are muted right now, just so you know. Can't quite hear. I can see that you're speaking, but we can't quite hear you, S&M. And if you'll work on that audio, we'll go over to Jay Free. Go right ahead.
Hey, so I was actually wondering, because initially in the AMA you mentioned NFT sponsorship, that there would be a requirement for projects to be sponsored by the NFT.
Yes.
How would that actually work? Like, is that like so they would reach out to us, and does the NFT holder gain any benefit from bringing projects to the DAO?
Absolutely. So, and this is all Fiscus projects here, and this is why we view these NFTs as really having a lot of power long term. So yes, they would. There's a negotiable rate that we're going to kind of put out there as a thought that the project owners would be paying to receive that, more or less, that sponsorship. So there's that, number one, and then outside of that, I mean, really, it's a situation where that full secondary market that's created means that there's a robust mechanism to continually have and or hold and or accumulate additional NFTs for that sponsorship. Now, if you have a project, let's say, for instance, then obviously you don't need an additional sponsor for that. Another thought would be that the NFT holders are also voting on projects, on which projects would be accepted. So in essence, the NFT holders are a form of a Senate, I think would probably be the best approach to view that, as far as bringing projects, to the table. long term. And again, we're sparking it with, I would say, probably the initial 50, 55 projects. That's how we're sparking it. We're bringing those. But after that, we really want to see the DAO really kind of fully develop in that. We'll plug it in with kind of project pipeline, but at that point, we really want the DAO to kind of take it from there.
Love that, and that actually kind of answers one of my other questions of if there was a minimum requirement for sponsorship, if like you had to have like X amount of sponsors to meet a requirement. The other question is for the whitelist, the second allocation, would that be in the same time frame as the first?
It's not.
What?
Yeah, it will be immediately after that. And so if that first one is on, let's say 10 to 12, then immediately after that, as in like 13 to 15, and again, those are guideline ranges right now.
Yeah.
It would be immediately after that. Yeah. So we want it all wrapped up back to back, but that's the thought right now. Just clean and orderly at the end of the day. We just want clean and orderly.
Okay. And then also, is there there's going to be a couple days where you have that whitelist time, right? So users, depending on codes and all that, will have more than enough time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we realize that we are 100% worldwide at this point. Those that have scrolled down to the language channels, we're over 25 languages in various countries. And so we want to make sure that everyone has adequate time. We know that if we abide by the 10 to 12, that we're on a weekend. And so we want to make sure that everybody has plenty of time to be able to have the forms done before that, be reminded of that, and then also be able to complete the whitelist.
All right. I appreciate answering everything. I love the project, and I'm going to be like 100% in. So thanks.
Very welcome. Thank you as well. All right. S&M here, FX. Do we have your mic fixed there, friend? I don't think so. If possible, you can give me your question. We might could read it. I'll go ahead and I'll bring up here I love and Azazel. And I know I'm botching these names, so forgive me for that. And go right ahead, friend. We are ready.
All right, I hope you can hear me. So my question is really against longevity and sustainability. I'm from like the stocks world, so I just want to know what if you have a plan of releasing a roadmap, and what that looks like, and what kind of time frame you're looking for as far as like the longevity of the DAO project.
Yes. From a view of overall longevity, I mean, we definitely see it as perpetual. I guess, of course, everybody does when you start something this way. We definitely see it from that perspective. We know that there will be changes along the road, so for us, the roadmap is really getting to what we consider is the first phase of Fiscus DAO, which is, again, bringing in revenue to the treasury in the form of providing the set aside for projects, being paid back with a significant ROI. We feel that is what we consider phase one of Fiscus DAO. Not to be confused with when we talk about, the NFT in phase one and whitelist in phase two, but of the whole of the DAO as a whole, that's how we view it. And so we know that phase two involves revenue as a core component, additional revenue from projects, more or less joint venturing in a way on certain projects. And we know that now we're able to do that in certain jurisdictions with certain entities from different geographic areas. We feel very confident in that now. Long-term, wholly owning assets. So this is phase three, wholly owning a myriad of assets, completely. The ones that are fully off-chain, represented on-chain, values verifiable. At that point, really having some phenomenal oracles so that there's really no difference, from revenues off chain and on. That's fully set up. There's a couple of large banks offshore that we've started just the beginning inroads with, really in dealing with that phase and things that they could do for Fiscus at that point. And so long term, we see. I think one of the ways that we like to talk about it is like the black, being a stock guy is like the BlackRock of crypto, man. Like 9.5 T in assets under management. You know, we view it in those terms as far as competition goes. We know that there's things that we have to get past in order to be at that point. But when I think when we look ahead as a team, you know, 3 years, 5 years in the future, we want to be at a sizable level to where we have not only the project pipeline is robust, but we also have great community engagement and projects. You know, we would love to really have 50 to even 60% in the next 2 years of projects really stem from the community and not just from outside, which is fine because it still benefits the community, but that's the goal. And so outside of that, really can't say because, you know, 5 years in crypto is a century probably in the real world is what it feels like. So that's, I think, as best as we can answer the question right now.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and I appreciate the comparison to BlackRock. I think that fits the narrative of your ambition as well, and I really appreciate the answer. My second question would be around the tokenomics itself. So you have a total of 100 million tokens that are going to be distributed eventually. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on what happens when all the tokens have been distributed and what that looks like? And is there going to be a layer 2 that you guys are going to be promoting for anything, or is that something that's too far down the line?
Yeah, the V2 has definitely been talked about. I know it's a subject that's been talked about a lot in the Discord, and Donnie might could jump in on this too. But the thought has definitely been, you know, price appreciation of the token. So we know it's a balancing act between that price appreciation and still having adequate liquidity, right? You know, it's like that can't dry up, and you know, by having additional amount of tokens, that could be the case. So I think it really is kind of a wait and see. The best thing about it, obviously, for token holders, is that the valuation is going to continue to increase long term. So whether it's a V2, whether it's a separate DAO that's specific to a certain asset class or a certain project type, that also has been thrown around. So almost a I wouldn't say a divestiture, but almost a breaking up of the conglomerate at that point, if we're that big. You know, having various other DAOs that just specialize, and they would have, you know, their own tokens, but they would stem from the Fiscus DAO ecosystem. So I think that's where we're at, and above that, we just need more input from you and from community members of different thoughts past that point.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit.
Thank you so much for your time, and appreciate Donnie, especially you've been wonderful with me. Thank you for putting up with me as well, and thank you, Cal, for putting up this AMA. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, you guys.
Definitely, thank you as well. Go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, just to speak to that point, on the discussions we've had with, we can't call it a fork but certainly an offshoot that has. In my view, specific asset classes that pertain. You know, what we've done in the real estate realm is not much different. And I think once we establish a track record, you know, in the space, then those things will be you know, easily done. You know, obviously going through the growing pains we have at this point, you know, it'll be easier to do it in the future, and we envision that those things will help the base Fiscus DAO. You know, I mean, you know, hey, we put this project out there. Who wants to be in? You know, and it's a limited project, maybe even a limited time frame, but it has a token, a sustainable token, and it's a total different project, maybe albeit smaller. So we've definitely talked about that, but obviously our focus is this project and to grow this and those things are, or you know, not necessarily short-term thoughts, but maybe mid-term and long-term kind of things.
Well said. Well said. All right, let's go to I Love. You are here as well.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Amazing. I just had a couple of quick questions. I'm sorry if they were already answered. I just got in kind of late. So I understand that the original NFT owners have rights that are reserved for them. Is there any point in acquiring a verified NFT on a secondary market?
Yes, long term, and this will be all kind of spelled out in Fiscus projects. But yes, long term, there definitely would be a benefit in holding that. One would be receiving revenue from projects, receiving yield from projects. The other would be receiving some form of a fee for sponsoring a project that requires an NFT holder to do that. So yes, there would definitely be long-term benefits to acquiring an NFT on the secondary market.
So just to follow up on that question, if we were receiving some kind of revenue, how would that be paid out? Would that be paid out in FISC or some other kind of stable?
Yes, actually, it's either one of those. You hit it spot on. It's either going to be in FISC or another stable. Long term, perhaps maybe some other tokens, but initially it's going to be FISC or another stable. With obviously FISC being the more mutually beneficial for everyone option there, because that would require a project owner developer to be able to purchase FISC, and then that would be distributed to the members.
Okay. And if you could, kind of vision you see if you could build some kind of partnership or relationship with Strong, like what would you envision?
Really, I think from the perspective that we would have, it really would be based on us furthering where they're at. We have the project finance mechanisms behind us. We have the firms that are doing 10, 15, 25, 30 billion, some quarterly. And so for us, it's really about, we're not node experts. We're never going to be necessarily, we all have skills, of course, and some of those skills are very specific, but we're never going to be the expert in those things. What we are is a way for them to be able to do more of what they do. And so from that perspective, it would be just that. It would be us saying, we want to spend $50 million on strong nodes. We want to spend $100 million on strong nodes, and what that looks like, and the benefits that they would have, and the things that they could potentially do with that to be able to spur their engagement would be a little bit maybe more than what they normally would do. And that's what we would bring to the table. And if they wanted to do it, by all means, we're definitely open and would love that. And that goes the same for others. I know that, there's others that, maybe are more game related. They're more metaverse related. Some of these other nodes, we've even thought about, there's a group out of that wants to do kind of large scale helium hotspots. And it was looking for financing for that, for $50 million for that. Those are the things that we want to do. We love that there's already a blend of off-chain and on-chain there. And so those are the things that we gravitate towards first, because we have the understanding of those elements and can interpret that. I think might be the best term. We can interpret that to the project finance groups, therefore funding that. Whereas, some of those groups may kind of be hitting their head up against the wall because they don't have the ability to be capital efficient in that way. So that's what we're here for. We're the bridge between off-chain and on-chain in every way possible that we can be.
Okay, and just a final question, if I may. So I've seen
Sure.
before, like their new launches, or like even with Strong, there was a burning of a large percentage of their tokens. Do you anticipate a need for that in the future?
No, No, we're not. We're not looking really at burning, and there's a phenomenal article, and it's something that I might just kind of wax poetic and do a nice post on. But you know, the thought is, if you have a treasury, then maintaining is a lot better at times than burning. And I know there's two camps on that, but for us, it really is that. You know, we would rather not burn, but just steadily increase the treasury of Fiscus. You know, because in a way that takes us to that same point. We're limited at 100 million anyways, and there's different models that show that maybe we're going to get there in 3 months, maybe we're going to get there in 4 and 5 months. Whatever the case may be, you know, we just view this as a token that will have significant price appreciation, and so not so much interested in the burn. I think our dynamics are just a little bit different than that, and definitely be willing to have those type of discussions with anyone. Feel free to sway us, but that's kind of the prevailing thought for sure.
Thank you very much. You guys are very helpful. I'm very excited for the project.
Very welcome. Thank you as well. All right, we have Crypto Grasshop.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead, friend.
All right. Hey,
Are you still with us? I think we might have. Okay, there we go.
can you hear me?
We
What the
can
heck's
now.
going on?
Yes, we can hear you now.
What's going on here? Gosh darn it.
All right, let's bring up OG Samir, and then we'll have Coffee Block come right in after him.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Hi. So thank you for today's AMA. It's been great. I've been listening, and I'm really intrigued to see what the project will, exceed to the standards. Thank you for the CryptoNerds group as well for, being able to put us on this platform. I've got one question with regards to the whitelist form. I've seen that the whitelist form will be sent out in 48 hours to 24 hours, so over the next 2 days. I've got a question with regards to allocation. Do we have to state how much allocation we are going to contribute? And if so, is that locked? Because as you can imagine, I'm guessing over the next 10 days when the whitelist happens, some people may be able to raise more than what they have now. Thank you.
And phenomenal question too, very specific. The thought is definitely really about that roster of whitelists. You'll have the option. The reason for that second round is that if we really wouldn't need the second round if we felt that it was if it was locked. Like if the forms were out and everyone knew, okay, this is exactly how many tokens that we want. Here's where we're at. And so it's not that, there's too much variance in that, right? And so it's really about having that whitelist, establishing the whitelist. Then with the actual token purchasing, it's up to you and your availability at that point, from that 1 to 2,000 tokens. And then that second round is the overflow. And so whatever's left over of the 3.5 million tokens, that's what's then sold during that second round.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. That was my only question.
Very welcome.
Once again, thank you for the AMA. It's been great.
Thank you as well. We appreciate your question. And let's go to Coffee.
Hey guys, one more question. I'm getting, I guess, a lot of is your team is 8 right now, right?
8 right now. We have what we consider is another 3 that are really kind of in, I guess you could say, kind of admin roles. We have another, honestly, it's kind of flux between maybe 4 and 6 that will be coming on throughout. And some of those have been brought by now, some of the 8. So we have some additionals from Princess Ray that we're going to be working just in Fiscus DAO. The same thing with Dr. Marati. The same thing with Brady McKay. There's one additional coming with them, and so we're growing. But yes to the question 8.
Okay. So it's kind of leaning towards right now you're a startup and it makes sense. But then when you're throwing around numbers like 1.6 billion, and that's just one part of the equation. So you're going to be a multi-billion-dollar company with 8 employees and some others.
Yeah.
How do you see growth and actually managing this as a company, off-chain company? It's a lot different than just making a Bitcoin blockchain infrastructure and just letting it go. You guys are going to be actively managing off-chain. So, and you're also going to have to be hiring through like a DAO system that we vote on for who gets paid and how much, right? So
exactly. Yeah, no, you're spot on. That's why
it's an awesome opportunity for you guys, but it's never been done. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, what are your thoughts on that? Are you scared about it? It's exciting, but this is kind of new territory here, and we're all part of it. So how do you see growth managing a multi-billion-dollar company when you have to ask like NFT profiles on Twitter who to hire?
Right. So first off, spot on. Always love your questions. This is why we knew that at the very beginning, yet another reason, if we needed more, that the focus needed to be on just providing the set aside, just getting paid back, because it is not human resource intensive. It shifts the responsibility for all things revenue, all things project ownership. It really puts that squarely with the project developers and the owners. And so the thought is, let us exist there until we've grown in enough human footprint to really take on those elements of verifying the revenue that's coming from this project, and having someone that's dedicated, that's really dealing with this level of project. And so getting back to the point that Donnie made, we never want to be at this 3,000 person level, but we can absolutely see 100. We can absolutely see I think 150, and I might be speaking for myself there. Donnie could weigh in, but we could definitely see that level. And with the DAO governance, it has to be better than anything that there's been. And so for us, it's, let's not take that next step until it is that point. We need to have active voting. So the thought behind the NFT class, separate from everyone that just owns FISC, is that because of that additional governance that's required, that in a way that could weed out some folks that say, you know what, I don't want to vote on 4 things this month. Yes, I'm going to receive this yield, which we would hope that would be enough to incentivize someone, but maybe they don't. And so when that NFT is up for sale, that's why there has to be a sale mechanism on the NFT. It would then go to someone that understands that this is going to come with some potential responsibilities. And so the thought is that if those responsibilities were not met, then the full value of the yield may not be dispersed. And that's early, but you always get me to say more than I should, I feel like. And so that's where that's headed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very welcome, and awesome question as always. All right, let's go to let's see here, the fatty, and I think S&M might have got his fix. S&M, are you there? We still can't hear you. We can see your
hello.
rings. Okay, there we go. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. We can hear you.
All right, sorry about that. I'm still kind of new to Discord, so
no problem.
My question was it's like an add-on question to, I think, one that was asked earlier in regards to whitelisting and purchasing like a pre-FISC token, which will then swap to a FISC token. And I was just wondering, so once we purchase this pre-FISC token and we have it in our wallet, would it be possible to like transfer this to like other wallets?
It will be. Yeah, it absolutely will be. We're big on the and I think if it,
hello. I'm not sure if it's cut out for me or.
Of course, that's why we're not doing certain things. But when it comes to kind of free and fair markets, we're about it. And so from that standpoint, yes, we know that some of those, may end up being transferred, but at the end of the day, they're going to be able to be swapped for a FISC token. So
Okay.
great question on that.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't too sure because obviously it's just my first time. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great question. Appreciate it. Anything else, feel free to DM for sure. All right, let's go to, let's see, Satyam Chowdhury I have here, and also D4V3. And I think after this, if we can do about 3 more, and then if whatever other outstanding questions there are, if you can just DM us, then we'll make sure we get back to those tonight. So let's do this one and 3 more, because I know we're running about 3 hours already. Go right ahead, Cookie Town 7.
Hi, I have a question regarding timing on that NFT auction. I thought you'd mentioned that it would be before the whitelist token sale. And would that be by Google Form, OpenSea, or other? And for those who buy at the NFT auction, will they be given a preferential price on the tokens?
Great questions. Yes. Token allocation for sure. Same token allocation as the NFTs now. There's no change in that. We definitely don't want this like endless stream of these pre-token events, right? And so it's still at the 5, still super simple. Once it is fully finalized, we are looking at OpenSea for the auction. One, because that makes it efficient from everybody being able to see it in real time. And be able to know where it's at. So that is the current thought and objective act of it being before the whitelist, because we want that done. We want all NFTs effectively done before the whitelist.
So that would be pretty quickly this week, maybe.
It would, yeah.
Okay.
It would, absolutely.
Okay, and for those of us who are not familiar with OpenSea, you'll post some information.
We will. That's something that honestly I think we misstepped on that. Just to acknowledge a mistake. That's something that I don't know if we just assumed or we just thought this is a great route and this is what we should do. But yes, we'll make sure that there's a little bit more information on. Okay, number one, here's where you go. Here's the verifiable link. Here's how the process works. We have, I think, 4 members that have reached out that do phenomenal kind of instructional videos. We're going to use them also, so that it's very streamlined and everybody, even those that have never been on OpenSea, know how to navigate it.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Very welcome. Thank you as well. All right, let's do 3 more. I have, let's see, D4V3 and then James MDXT after that.
Hi, thanks everyone for doing this AMA, for answering our questions. One of my question is there like a certain amount of tokens that's gonna be like locked away, like used for either marketing, or is that up to the DAO to decide, or everything's like up in the air, or how would that work? And if so, is there gonna be like a charge, like so that we could look at like how many % goes to the marketing side, how many goes to the team, and then how many is up for sale, kind of?
Yeah, and good question for sure. Unlike other projects, we're vastly different, from us. Marketing to date has been 0, right? And we really feel like it will somewhat continue to be 0. There's a series of kind of influential individuals that are already a part of Fiscus that have requested AMAs, that want to do sit downs, that some of the additional events that we have as far as project reveals and things like that will be done in a way to kind of garner and increase the community. But to date, at 6,000 people in here in the Discord and 6,000 on Twitter, it's been very organic. And because we are, again, something that's vastly different, we really want the community, especially long term, as they're bringing projects, to be really based in that, to be based in Fiscus, to know exactly what is going on and really to be a part of it. And so based on that, we don't really see a lot of allocation needed for marketing. From the team perspective, there's no tokens set aside. There's no hidden team tokens. That was always the approach that we really wanted to stay away from. One, because it differentiates us, but two, we want everyone to know that it's long term. Our view is long term. Everyone else's view should be long term, which is why we also are taking our time. It's not because we're not a fork. It's not let's throw up a UI and use this smart contract that's existing and let's rock and roll. Nothing against them, but for us, it's just a different process and it's a different look. It makes a lot more sense on our end to spend time, and not specifically resources, but to spend time in additional projects, because those projects, unlike an allocation that's going to go towards marketing, which can be very efficient. We have some great marketing people that are part of the community, but unlike elements of marketing, for us, let's deal in reality. Let's deal in factual. Let's deal in things that we know are going to actually hit the bottom line, if you will, of the treasury. And so for us, that time and that education and that marketing is best spent to a degree with the project owners and developers, because then it has a tangible benefit. But at the same side, we want to utilize things that really have somewhat of a zero cost to the DAO, which would be utilizing a select amount of whitelists and marketing around those, utilizing the NFTs and marketing around those. And so to date, that's been the objective. Long term, if needed to garner projects, then a marketing budget inside of the DAO would make sense. Absolutely. We want to be known and out there, when it comes to that. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thanks for taking me and to have the opportunity to ask the question. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful. Great question too. And for our last question here, we have James NDXT.
Hey, just wanted to touch back on what you and Coffee were talking about, in regards to, potentially how quickly this could grow, and touching back on the question I had about if you guys were focusing on specific industries, to bring onto the DAO. Do you see this getting to a point, and touching back on responsibility and people taking part in the DAO, maybe not wanting to vote 4 times a month? Could you see this potentially, people being delegated who are, responsible for specific verticals, who are more knowledgeable in certain verticals than others, and taking on that responsibility for, say, those who don't want to vote 4 times a month?
Yes. Yeah. Short answer is yes. The thought has been, for larger measures to pass, that perhaps it's an open vote, for things like for instance, when we get to 100 million tokens, build out of the treasury. We know that needs to be opened up, and it should be opened up, to everyone at that really holds FISC. But the day to day, absolutely. There is that community element, so that either certain elements are prepared and then voted on larger, or 4 or 5 smaller steps are voted on by a smaller group with that expertise. And then that larger element would then be kind of opened up to the floor, if you will. So yes, absolutely. And we're in the beginnings of that. And that's why at this point, we are actively looking for those that have those governance thoughts, even outside of us, because we realize that, the experience that we have as the core 8, even though it's vast, it is at the same time limited, because we're only 8. And to truly have that hive mind, we know that we need a few hundred in those DAO governance thoughts and decisions. And so that's something that we're looking at spurring really after the LBP, kind of dialing down into governance thoughts and before that. And so anyone and everyone that has thoughts on that, on DAO governance, DM, DM Fiscus DAO. Let Donnie and his team finish everything with the NFTs, but DM Fiscus DAO, and DM me, DM Fiscus Calisota, so that we can really dive into that. And alternatively, through the website, send an email, so that we really can dive into that. So open to that and open to those contributions from you as well, James.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Very nice. And thank you, everybody. Listen, for those that, again, have additional questions, feel free to shoot those over. We have a lot that's ahead of us, and a lot of things that are tangible. We love that, we've been able to talk about those tangible things now. Expect those things that we've spoken of, those projects, project details, our 4 Doxxed team members, more of those to come. All elements of the NFT as far as finalizing that with the NFT auction. Any other of those deep dive questions, feel free to send them. Listen, we always take a view that there's no bad question, and at the end of the day, there could be something that maybe we haven't thought about. And so, we love deep dives. We really do. I know that we want to continue to do these AMAs, perhaps weekly. I know by the end of next week, we'll have a lot more things to talk about. We have a new individual that's going to be kind of really focused on Twitter, and it's a 3-person team. So expect more in tweets there. Expect more in overall engagement. We're really just getting going. We've done a lot in the fact of where we're at, but we've really just begun. And so we appreciate everybody for being on this journey. Those that are still on this call after 3 hours and 19 minutes, we appreciate everybody for being here as well. And we just wish everybody a good day, good night, good morning. And we'll see you on the next AMA. And Donnie, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I'm thankful for the community and thankful for the team. I mean, everyone's been fantastic and extremely patient, and I do appreciate that as we go through some of the tedious parts of this. But yes, thank you to the community. You guys have been great, and I appreciate. We've had many kind words, and I just really want to say we haven't even shown you anything yet, and we just can't wait to do that. So thank you all for sure.
Absolutely. And with that, we will end and wish everybody till next time. Thank you, everyone.